What's up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 533 of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast hot tags of the week, and they are hot this week. We got a lot to talk about here, so we're just going to roll right along here. You know how we do things. You know who we are. If you don't already, I'm Tony Mango. I've got with me Robert E. Felice.
Yeah, I'm here, but the important thing is Callum's here. Hi, Callum.
Oh, hi. Hi, guys. It's interesting to be on this thing as well. I hope I can lift the mood a little bit.
Man, we're doing this in the afternoon on Friday instead of Friday night, and for a couple of reasons. One, we already know what happens on SmackDown and on Level Up. I was going to say on 205 Live. I'm still not used to that yet. So that makes it a little bit easier. We don't have to record this at night. We can, if there's anything interesting to talk about on the TV side, we already know what's going to happen. But more importantly, we just wanted to get all three of us here to talk about a lot of these topics, because we got some major. There are some things on this list that could be the one big story for the week, and we've got like four. Then we got some little ones as well. So, reminder, as we're talking about any of these kind of things, drop your comments below. Tell us your thoughts on what they are, and kind of roll along the discussion when the good and the bad, and any kind of reactions that you've got. Reminder, of course, as well, to hit the like button. That'll help us out a lot. Make sure that you are subscribed. Ring that little notification bell, because then you'll know when we go live for the post show for tomorrow's pay-per-view. Remember, it's tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. ET is when the pay-per-view starts. So we'll be ending, I'm assuming, around 3 or so in the afternoon. I don't know 100%. And, you don't know either. So then when we'll figure that out, then we go live. You'll get that email alert, that kind of deal. Also, just a reminder as well, if you want to help us out on the monetary side of things, Patreon is the best way to do that, or the join button on YouTube. It's exactly the same. You still get access to the Darkcast. You still get to pick your poison stuff. We are figuring out when we're going to do the pick your poison of the watch along of WrestleMania 21 coming up. I want to know if you guys are available to join us if we did it live on possibly the 27th of February. Put that in your calendars. Also, TeePublic and Redbubble are the merchandise shop options. There's also the little thanks button on there for a little tip jar kind of deal. And let's just get into this and start talking about some of these things. We should start with the big one and then, kind of balance out big little ones, that kind of deal. So let's talk about Stone Cold Steve Austin possibly returning to WWE, and not just to do a promo, not to do some kind of a TV show, but to wrestle. According to the rumors, it seems like it's going to be Stone Cold Steve Austin possibly versus Kevin Owens at WrestleMania this year. Not necessarily a guarantee, of course. You have to take everything with a grain of salt. And even then, even if he does wrestle, it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to wrestle Owens. But it's kind of leaning more towards that direction than anything else. I'm not going to believe it until I see it. And, we've heard plenty of things in the past of, they've reached out to Austin, they want to do this, they want to do that, and it's fizzled out, or it's been complete bullshit. So I don't trust that he is going to wrestle, but they're kind of implying it a little bit, and it's looking a little bit more likely now than it has in years past. Are you guys thinking he's going to wrestle? And if so, who do you think he's going to end up being opposite the ring?
So, first of all, I want to say that the phrase, "I'll believe it when I see it," is probably when you're going to hear a lot today. But I do believe that it's closer than ever. I don't know if the desire is as much there 20 years later as it would have been, let's say, back in 2009 when he was rumored to fight Brandy at Mania, or even, back in 2007 when Hogan was just like, "Hey, I'm going to fight Austin at Mania," and he's like, "No, you're not." Yeah, I would want to see it. I would want to see it against Kevin Owens. I think that'd be really cool. I'm sure if Austin's going to do it, he's not going to want to do a 5-minute squash thing with Theory. He's going to want to actually have a match. And I think he could really sink his teeth into a match with Kevin Owens. But we'll have to see what happens. Of course, this does come straight from Sean Ross Sapp and Fightful Select. So I have to believe that it's got to be as close as ever. And I'm here for it. I want to see it.
I think that there's a very good possibility that it happens. I wouldn't say it's nailed on by any stretch of the imagination, but as I say, there's a reason why it's coming up to the forefront now, when there was all those discussions probably about a decade or so ago, when I think the last one, the big name that was linked with Stone Cold Steve Austin for a match was CM Punk. And obviously nothing went anywhere with that. It seems bizarre that it's happening now, but obviously WrestleMania's in Texas. Austin's 57 years old now, and he left 20 years ago due to the fact that his entire body was shot. So it seems odd that 20 years later, everything seems to be fine and dandy for him to get back in the ring again. But I guess time does help away from the ring, and he's taken as much time as basically anybody else. It's not like WWE is not in the habit of bringing back wrestlers after a long stint of time. See Elimination Chamber this weekend to verify that more than anything else. But yeah, I think Kevin Owens makes a good amount of sense, because Kevin Owens is pretty Teflon in terms of it's not going to hurt him to lose what I do believe to be a 3-minute squash match to Stone Cold Steve Austin, where we just see the Stone Cold do his hits. Because let's put it this way, Stone Cold's not taking a pop-up powerbomb.
No.
Or a fucking
cannonball in the corner.
Or a fisherman buster off the top rope or anything like that. So I imagine it's just going to be Kevin Owens talks to the crowd a little bit, gets just the classic heat. Stone Cold stomps a mud hole in him, does the Lufez press, does the gun salutes, elbow drop, hits about 3 stunners, and then that's jobs are good and really at that point. So yeah, and I think this is first of all a desperation type move, because funnily enough, of all shows, WrestleMania is not selling out. They are currently in the process of already having to resort to 2-for-1 tickets. Mm-hmm. So that means that they need to try and get as many big names as possible. And there's rumors also circulating that another quote unquote Austin level talent is also being rumored. And I've heard some elements of speculation, but I don't feel like we should bring that up until it finally gets put forward by a more verifiable source, maybe. But there are other ideas out there. I mean, when you say Austin level talent, your mind immediately goes to The Rock, but I assume there's some other people that they're probably similar vein, because I imagine Rock is more penciled in for next year's stuff when we're back in LA and the match with Roman happens.
But I got a theory for Rock though, and he did the thing at the Super Bowl where he's like in the millions, and he even addressed it on Twitter that the other half of that is coming soon, where he does the millions and millions. I think there's a good chance that they just do the kind of the Roman shtick at this point, where he beats one guy and then immediately out comes the next.
They say the other thing like they did with the Cena thing, where Rock comes out the night afterwards, and then they set that match up for a year in the future.
Except in this case, I think that they would just do it like night of, like Roman beats Lesnar, and oh shit, it's the Rock, because they don't. Because why wouldn't they? They don't care anymore. That's how they just do things. Well, and I think it's very possible.
I think it's very different when you because if you decide to bring out Rock as a surprise and then you've had no build towards it, that's a level of, even with WWE standards, that's a level of non-business sense that's pretty much unfathomably stupid. But
they also teased The Rock for an entire show and didn't deliver in November.
That's different. But that's different. That's teasing something's going to happen. That's teasing The Rock's going to be there and then not delivering, but still getting people's money in the first place. This would be a case of, oh my god, we've got the biggest movie star in history and one of our biggest stars, our biggest wrestlers in history, and we're not going to tell anyone about it until the day of the show. So no one's going to be excited about it, and no one's going to think it's going to happen. It's that's
I guess you're
not
right
business
there.
of it. But in terms of the actual Austin match, I have to say I'm not. It's not a case of not being excited about it, because I'm sure it'll be a cool moment, and if Austin is ready to go and he wants to really go for it, then great for him. But it's a case of his final match was perfect in a way. It was the perfect way to end his career on the biggest stage of them all, against his biggest rival, in-ring rival in history. And the story they told was he just wouldn't give up until his body just gave out in that final rock bottom. You have The Rock thanking him for the ring. You have Jim Ross calling it, which was a big deal as well. And I know you guys are more into it than I am, but I don't really want Stone Cold's final ever match to be called by Michael fucking Cole.
You know what? No, I agree with you. That's an element I did not think of until right now, and I agree with you. I don't think anybody but Jim Ross should call a Stone Cold match.
Yeah, and that's not going to happen if it's coming in WWE. And realistically, it's just another addition to the plethora of we don't have any stars, so let's bring a star from our past back. So,
arguably the worst example yet.
But Austin's the best example and the worst example, because obviously it's a guy who's 20 years out of the ring, but also it's like if you're going to do it with anybody, it's going to be with Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I agree with you, but he's also been out of the ring for 20 years. Like, there are people on the roster who may not have been alive when he was, an active competitor. That's really shocking to think about. And it's one of those things where, yes, the business hasn't evolved, but it does kind of suck that they have to keep digging into this well, and the well is dry. It's getting more and more dry by the minute, and I'm like, we're of an era in 2002, 3, 4 where they bring Hogan back, and it felt like old man Hogan, and he wasn't even remotely as old as the guys they're bringing back now. Well,
we have to hope that there's at least some semblance of panic, and that they don't forget about it. That it's not just like, okay, shit, WrestleMania is not selling well. Who do we bring back? Who do we put out as an emergency marquee thing to get us through WrestleMania? And then we'll go, see, we did it. And we could just goof off. You got to hope that they're going, fuck, man, we really shouldn't have released all these people. We really shouldn't have not bothered to build stars. Or we really shouldn't have whatever. And maybe between not having enough women for the Royal Rumble this year, having the Royal Rumble go down the way that it did, and then realizing that WrestleMania is in as much of a bad position as it is, you gotta hope that there's a portion of Vince McMahon and Nick Khan and anybody else that's in charge that is just like, maybe we're in a tough spot right now heading into Mania where we can't really do anything too drastic other than what the plan is. But fuck, we got to kick ourselves in the ass after this. And, you can't rely on, let's find another person like a Stone Cold to come back, because WrestleMania should not be Brock versus Roman again, Ronda Rousey versus Flair again. Hey, we just did the Lita thing. Did that get you back for a couple weeks? Hey, Edge is wrestling. We don't even have a game plan for him, it seems, but he's wrestling. Edge is still there. You guys still care, right? Hey, Austin's here. Hey, Undertaker is going to make an appearance. We'll talk about him a little bit later on. Like, you can't build a show of being like, okay, well, every Raw and SmackDown and all the other extraneous things don't matter for an entire year, because all that matters is at the last minute we can scramble some old names for 2 nights. I mean, shit. We've talked about it a million times. But if Austin's able to wrestle, I can't say I'm not interested, because it's like, it's fucking Austin. And we haven't seen him. So it's like, he's not going to wrestle a great match. He's never been able to do that in, years. So you can't expect him to go out there and put on some, I don't know, some, Shawn Michaels type of match or something. Shawn still probably could. But
that's not what you're paying for.
No, you're paying to literally see him do exactly what he would do if it wasn't a match, but they rang the bell first and then they ring it after a pinfall. You're watching him do a stunner, flip him off, stomp a mud hole. If it's Owens, cool. If it's not Owens, there's a couple other people that are possibly options, but I think that Owens makes the most sense.
The last time I really remember this being talked about was, even beyond the Punk thing, was Brock Lesnar for 2016 when they were first running AT&T Stadium. And he even said, the only reason I haven't done it is because I would want to actually do it. And then it took me so long to get off that adrenaline high last time, I don't know if I want to put myself through that again. Now, I don't doubt that Steve Austin would want to give everything to Kevin Owens. But is it possible? Is it worth it? Look, obviously, I hope the answer is yes. I want to see one Stone Cold match since it's been so long. But I don't know. This is going to be one of those things where it's going to be played real close to the vest, and you got to hope they deliver.
Now, that other tease that we don't know if there's anything to it or not, but like an Austin level person, if it's not The Rock, who really else is there?
I mean, honest to God, it could be the Undertaker thing that they announced.
Well, the thing that I've heard, and this person is not Austin level, but maybe in some kind of capacity they consider it the same way. There's been at least some scuttlebutt going around that Shawn Michaels versus AJ Styles is a match that's being rumored for WrestleMania as well.
Oh God, no. You know, look, Shawn Michaels is my favorite wrestler ever. I'm really good on Shawn, man. He looks great as a coach for NXT. I don't know if I need to see this Shawn Michaels come out to I'm just a sexy boy. You know, I think I think I'm good.
Well, this is the biggest thing that like worries me about the Stone Cold thing is that Michaels came back for a one-off match after having a pretty perfect send-off and vowing not to come back in the ring, and he came back for the big payday, and it was one of the worst matches of the year. And Michaels was the best part of it, but it was still a bad match.
Great.
But it was still a bad match, and that's the legacy he's left with is a really like overblown match between him and an injured Triple H against a really ragged Undertaker and Kane. And that's like, okay, that's I don't say it's tarnished his legacy, but it's made like the end of his career. Like, it's always that thing that people talk about, that they never know, these people just don't know when to let go. And I was saying that's the same thing with Austin. Austin's been out the ring for 20 years, so he's left it long in the past. He's let go, and this would just be one final thrill ride. Although people, again, also suggesting that the Austin thing might not be a one and done thing, and they might try and get him on the same sort of deal that Goldberg is on.
Why wouldn't it be a one and done thing? That's not
because if it goes well, then they're going to want to milk it for as much as they possibly can.
Yeah, but I think the Austin matches can go even better than the Goldberg matches because none of Austin's moveset involves him headbutting a door or doing a crazy tackle.
Let's put it this way: none of his old moveset. What if he's like, "Yo, over these years, I really wish I would have been headbutting doors."
but that's the thing that makes That's the thing that made the Goldberg return so great, though, is that Goldberg never was the guy that did these long, epic matches. Anyway, he was a guy that just speared people and jackhammered them, and that was it. And that meant that he can do that as well in his 50s as he could do in his 30s.
Yeah, but are you going to tell me a main event Austin style can't be done super easily? All he does is strike. Punches and kicks, he can do that. The hardest thing might be the Des press, and that's like...
All I'm saying is that if you saw the size of the knee braces that he was coming down to the ring on in 2003, then I'm kind of thinking 20 years later, knees don't heal like that, really. They don't just come back to normal eventually. If anything, they get worse as you age. So I don't know. Maybe he's found some sort of miracle way to be pretty much be able to wrestle the same way that he could do in his... Like the fact that he left wrestling in his... So it was 20 years ago, so he left wrestling before he turned 40. Yeah. Obviously, now half the WWE roster is around about that age anyway, but that's like neither here nor there. So I don't know how he can do something which is more than just the stomp in a mud hole, stunner, done, see you later, thank you Texas, that type of thing.
So now, with the idea,
post-match celebration will be longer than the match itself.
With the idea in mind that if he did return, I'm just trying to think of like people who could possibly fight Austin in the future. You got Owens, of course. Maybe there's something to the Austin Theory thing, but then people would argue like, why are you wasting it on Austin Theory? But then I'd argue, well, you got to try to build new stars. You can't look at it as wasting.
I don't know. Way to build new stars to be beaten by a 60-year-old man.
I mean, it's something. You got Randy Orton.
Brandy.
Viper versus Rattlesnake. You got Seth Rollins. Obviously, you got Roman Reigns. They got the Brock Lesnar thing if you want to risk it.
Austin still wants it. I don't know if his body does.
Styles.
Yeah.
You could do a 2-second thing against The Miz or Sami Zayn. You could do... Maybe a Cody Rhodes if he. We'll talk about him a little bit later on. You might be able to get. I mean, imagine if
There's a
Saudi
good
Arabia.
I can think of.
Imagine this for a Saudi Arabia show. Oh, we signed another new contract, and it's Goldberg versus Austin. Like they'll go fucking nuts.
Yeah. The thing that sucks about all this is that I can't, like, outside of just the damn it sucks that they're old, I can't argue against it. It's like, look, if they're willing to do it, and if they can do a good image of what they used to, why wouldn't you?
And then people will be like, that sort of catch-22 of the whole thing. The matches aren't going to be great because they can't be the way that they used to be. And then people will go, yeah, but you got to give them some credit. And then you go, yeah, but then if you say that it's not going to be great, then you sound like you're being a dick, but you're just being honest. And then it's, so.
But the equally sad thing about this entire thing is that all those names that you just listed, I can see them happening if Austin decides to come back for a more extensive run. But the worst thing is I can't imagine him losing any of those matches except to Roman and Brock.
Right.
Because he's so much bigger star than every other person that you've named. They're not even comparable to the star that he is 20 years past his prime.
It will never get better until somebody has to clean sweep. Okay, we're even out of Roman and Brock now. We have to start from scratch and have a bunch of people that are seen as major stars.
Well, let's transition to some of these smaller topics. Get back to around to two of the bigger ones. Peacock is going to produce a documentary on Teddy Hart.
Reportedly.
I'm interested to check it out. I don't know.
I'm not. I am in the full camp of bad idea. Please don't do.
Well, it's not like the stuff isn't already some of it out there.
All the more reason. Bad idea. Please don't do. I feel this way about a lot of celebrity documentaries. If something is problematic, please don't try to cash in on it. Please, let's not draw attention to these things. Especially in the case of Teddy Hart, who is kind of like the heart that never was.
He's yada yada problematic.
Yeah, I mean, why would we do this? What are you doing?
Well, I mean, look, it's going to come out like that, or it's going to be a dark side of the ring or something, right? So.
I guess.
I'll check it out.
Rather the latter.
Eventually, someone is going to do the Teddy Hart story, and so it might as well be Peacock that take advantage of it if they have the opportunity. It's going to be like a Tiger King type thing, really.
Yeah, it's not going to be a WWE produced thing. So for anybody that's wondering, why would this happen and not the Vladimir one that they already fucking did and don't want to release for some reason? That's insane to me. I'd be curious to see what it's like when they don't have to edit everything based off of a WWE style. I don't know everything about the Teddy Hart story, so I'll check it out. Let's see another one here. Another one of the smaller ones. Carlos Cabrera, released by WWE. It's about 30 years that he was with the company, and they're just like, thanks, see ya. I don't know why they would release him. It seems like they would pretty much always need to have a Spanish commentary. But is that something that's like, we need new blood? Or is it just like he had been there long enough that his contract seemed like it was, you perpetually get a little bit higher of a raise, and then now you're making too much money from what we worth, and then now we could just hire somebody else and reset the scale kind of thing,
Honestly, it feels like it's the we need new blood thing, and that's okay. They've gotten rid of a lot of tenured people. I mean, Chimmel's gone.
Kyoto. Rougeau, I think, is gone.
You feel like they're going to do what they're going to do, but it's just shocking because these people have been involved in the company forever.
I mean, obviously, I don't listen to Carlos Cabrera because I'm not listening to the non-English thing, but boo. I don't like that. Not my favorite news. A more positive news item, though. Congrats to Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae having their son, Quill. Not too much to talk about there. It's just one of the smaller ones. Just congrats, guys.
I liked there was a tweet that Johnny put up a couple of days ago about the fact they were walking around Disneyland in order to try and help him induce labour.
Yeah.
And there was a person that came up to him and says, when's the baby due? And Candice says to the person that comes up to him, says, today. It's just like
So
they're funny.
Johnny had posted in his Discord server that she was in labor for 40 hours.
For how many hours
And,
you cut out there?
For over 40 hours.
Eesh.
And like, you know, bless her. She's tough as nails.
It's the fucking NXT mentality. They always have to stretch it out a little bit longer than they need to.
I mean, the credit to the kid. He gets it, right? Longer entrance, you know, a little bit of that Triple H learning, right? Look, I think they're awesome. I think that it's cute. They already posted a little Guardians of the Galaxy like setup where he had a little Rocket Raccoon next to him and a mixtape. I think they deserve all the happiness in the world. They seem like the nicest people in the world. And I'm just so happy for them.
Very happy news. Let's do another quick one here. According to the shows page of WWE, Saturday night's main event is going to return on April 23rd, which had not been added to the pay-per-view schedule or anything ahead of time. So it doesn't, like, it's not, put out there 100% as this is a pay-per-view. It could be. It could just be like another, hey, it's a premium live event, Saturday night's main event. It's
but it could also just be Smackville.
Right. It could be that. It could just be a way to try to sell some tickets to the April show. It could be this bonus type of half-ass sort of deal where it's a premium live event in the sense that you can only watch it on Peacock and the WWE Network, but it's not going to be like something that they actually build to, and it's a 3-hour show. It could just be, 3 matches or something. It's yet to be seen, but I like the logo for it. It's kind of got a little bit of that old school thing.
I love the logo for it. For some reason, like, that's the takeaway for me. Like, this is a great logo. I think they should be bringing back Saturday Night's Main Event because you're working on the NBC platform. NBC and WWE have a great partnership. I think there's no reason not to do this.
Depending on what happens with the actual card, at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's hard to get too excited about it until we actually see what the card is all about. But yeah, they should be taking more advantage of some of the better wrestling gimmick names and like things they can name their live events than what they have done recently. So yeah, I'm sure it'll be good. And they're doing a lot more things on Saturday anyway, so it makes sense for it to be one of their premium live events.
Thankfully, nobody made a mix-up, and it's not on a Sunday night. Then they'd be like, fuck, what do we do? Let's do one more of these quick ones. WWE's intro now has John Cena saying, then, now, forever, together. And it's just, WWE together. And I rolled my eyes so fucking much at this because I'm like, there's always a thing in writing of show, don't tell. And this isn't quite the writing side of things, but it's just like PR. Don't say, oh, we're together and you're in this with us and we're all a family and all that when the company's been the way that it's been like these past couple of years. Don't just say it. We don't feel it. And it's not going to trick anybody. It's not going to be the type of thing where it's like, yeah, you know what? I am going to stand up for WWE. Remember that whole thing?
Yeah.
Well, there's plenty of Twitter trolls that live up to that moniker very, very strongly. But yeah, it's hard to really go, yeah, we're all in this together, especially you guys, because together you're all being released.
Right. It's just one of those things that I just, when I overheard this, I was in the other room, washing some pans or cooking or something. I forget. I'm in the kitchen at the time. And I just hear together. And I was like, wait, what? And Caroline was watching at the time just to make sure that I wasn't missing anything. I'm like, did they just have like John Cena say together to the end of that? She's like, yeah, I don't know why. Is that a normal thing? I'm like, no, this isn't normal, but I hate it already. I hate it.
I missed this completely. And you're saying he just says together?
They just the only word he says? Well, he says the then now to get forever together.
All right. So I think they were watching the Super Bowl. They heard him on one of those Honda commercials, and they're like, "Hey, John, come and do this for us real quick, so we can feel like we're just as special."
And can you also hit us with one of those commercials for those pistachios or whatever it was?
Also, you guys doing you doing anything on April 3rd or 4th? Like,
Yeah.
do you think to pop in for a little bit?
Can we please get Peacemaker to show up at WrestleMania? We need it.
I would not be opposed to that.
Did you finish?
I have not finished, but I like everything I've seen.
Have you checked out any of it, Callum? You're not interested, or?
I am interested, but it's HBO Max. Obviously, we don't get that in the UK.
You can check it out on Plex.
I'm pretty sure I'll be able to find somewhere to watch it. I wanted to. I will say that I've watched the opening opening credits probably about 24 times because I think it's one of the greatest intro sequences I've ever seen.
But later in the I'll spoil this one because it's funny. John Cena has sex in the first episode of the show, and it's just one of those things that I'm just watching. Like, I never thought I'd be watching John Cena in a DC property comically having sex with what will turn out to be like an alien.
It's to be honest, after I saw him comically have sex with Amy Schumer, anything was possible after that point, really.
I mean, well, there you go.
Yeah, it's a great show. If you are interested, anybody, you're on the fence about it or something. If you liked Suicide Squad, the second one, not the first one, the Suicide Squad, not Suicide Squad. If you liked that, definitely check it out because it's the same humor and everything. There's been a lot of moments that have really made me laugh. So I don't know. I thought maybe we might do something about it down the line. Of course, it's just the busiest fucking time of the year, so you never know. But hey, it's always pick your poison. You could always do something about that. Let's go to one of these bigger stories here. The Undertaker is going to be inducted in this year's class of the WWE Hall of Fame. Makes perfect sense. It's Texas. He is a Texan, so it's not like, you're putting him in the middle of like Minneapolis and just kind of like, okay, do it for the sake of it. Taker, of course, we don't need to run down his accolades. He's fucking Undertaker. Like this, he's been a Hall of Famer for 20 years. I'm looking forward to it. We all kind of collectively asked our buddy Chuck, who's the biggest Undertaker fan that we know. We're just kind of like, are you going to go to WrestleMania now? Like, you're just going to kind of pick up your shit and go. But I'm curious to see who's going to induct him because we're going to have a proper Hall of Fame. It's not going to be like the.
It's going to take place immediately after SmackDown, which I hate.
Yeah, I hate that too. I don't want to do the whole 2 hours worth of SmackDown. Is a complete waste of like, a promo and a video package, and then a promo, and then a video package, then a vignette, and then a promo, and like that kind of thing. Waste my time with that, and then at the same time watch Level Up as I watch the Hall of Fame, and then I got to get up real fucking early to do the NXT thing, and then do that. It's going to be a hell of a weekend, but at least it's going to be a Hall of Fame, and it's not going to be in front of video screens where people are like, it's great to be here, wherever the fuck I am. Thanks. I want Kane to induct him. I think, of course, Paul Bearer would have made a lot of sense, but at this point, it's either Kane, Mick Foley, or maybe Shawn Michaels in my mind. Or, maybe Vince. I could see maybe Vince.
Maybe Vince. This is like the one and only time where I'm like, he has to be the front runner here, right? He's openly said several times that Undertaker is his favorite superstar of all time. Unprompted just because of how loyal he is. So I think it's Vince. I think Vince sends Taker on his way with a proper farewell. And this is much needed and much deserved. And Taker deserves every accolade in the book. Honestly, I hate the amount of like flack that this is getting just because I guess Undertaker, people still haven't recovered from learning that he's a, Texan who has Texas values. Like, I mean, none of that should deter what he's done in the ring, and he's the man. This is so awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that obviously Undertaker's going to go in because he's the Undertaker. You don't need to talk about what reasons why he's going in, or talk about, is this the right decision or something like that. Yeah, of course, the Undertaker goes into the Hall of Fame. Even if Mark Calloway comes across as a bit of a dick, it's just like the Undertaker's going in, so that's the good part of it. And yeah, I think Vince could. Who's the last person Vince inducted? It was Austin, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
also in Texas.
Yeah. So Austin, Undertaker kind of fits into that same mold as like the guy that was just always there and was just always a huge deal, like from 1990 to 2020. So yeah, I feel like this is it's probably the biggest induction for a long time. Like this, yeah, it's a massive deal. They're doing the thing that they have gotten into the habit to in the last few years of like a big publication is the first one to break it and not WWE. But that's their PR thing. That's the way that works.
At least this one feels special and not like, hey, they're inducting the NWO and literally they've all been inducted already. Like,
yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's the Undertaker. It's in Texas, so it made 100% sense for it to happen here. So yeah, good on Undertaker.
And we were just talking about how come they haven't announced anybody yet, and it's like, all right, well, we wait 2 days, and there we go.
I told you it was early.
It still didn't feel too early to me. It still felt like they should have done something. So now we know, okay, it's because the Undertaker thing. We got that. We'll wait a couple more weeks. It'll be probably towards the beginning of March when we'll start hearing the rest of the names. And then they'll kind of hit us with like, okay, here's more like, a secondary main event kind of guy. And then here's like a couple mid-card talents. Here's the celebrity wing, that kind of deal. I haven't been hearing any kind of scuttlebutt about anybody else. I have no idea really who else could be in, but we'll be tracking it. We'll be posting it on smarkoutmoment.com. We'll be talking about it when we eventually do the Wrestling with the Past special that we do every year. And, we'll kind of dive a little bit deeper into that. Of course, when we find out who is inducting the people, we'll talk about that too. But props for the Undertaker, man. He's the fucking Undertaker. He's my number 2, as close as you could possibly be to number 1 of all time. So,
man.
I really shouldn't even call them number 1 and number 2. I should call them 1A and 1B, with the way that I respect and like Undertaker and Shawn Michaels basically exactly the same. It should just be 1A and 1B. Maybe I'll do that in the future. That'll be my top 5 actually has 6 on it type of deal. And I'll just bump somebody up from number 6. Haven't figured that out yet. Let's talk about this one. 205 Live. Finally RIP. Speaking of Undertaker.
Yeah. It really feels right that they finally gotten rid of 205 Live. And look, a lot of nice stories came out of this, and people were like, we worked very hard to make that show something special. But it's so good that they're finally calling it NXT Level Up. It's all about NXT. It's finally a show that can just be focused on being their main event kind of thing. And I love it. And I like the logo too.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. Of course, there's no reason to have a 205 Live, a cruiserweight-based show when you don't have a cruiserweight division anymore. So, yeah. And if you're having guys like Odyssey Jones fighting on it, or female wrestlers fighting on it, then yeah, the 205 Live moniker just like is no longer serving the purpose that it was originally built to be there for.
It's literally the title is 205 Live. They stopped the 205 and they stopped the live. So yeah, there's no purpose. I mean,
it's been a long time coming. I would go even so far to say that show was dead on arrival. Like that show did not have the
NXT arrival. Huh? Sorry, go ahead.
This is why Tony does the bad jokes. Like, and that's I just don't feel like they really had any real longevity because they weren't going to put any emphasis on the cruiserweight division beyond just a couple of months into their run. It immediately became a side act. 205 Live didn't get any major traction, and yeah, using it as almost like an additional hour of NXT for even more underdeveloped stars, then yeah, I think that probably works out. It's essentially NXT Dark,
right? Which is basically what it should be, because like the Cruiserweight division started out cool. Cruiserweight Classic was great. Tons of great talent that they signed. It actually seemed like they were interested in doing something with it. We got the championship, looked pretty cool. And then, very quickly it started to just become like, all right, we're starting to realize that even just a few months in, like 2 months in, you don't really care all that much. And it's basically going to get harder and harder to move up that mountain. It started to do the whole thing of like, let's merge it with Raw. Let's kind of do this. Let's do this. They tried a bunch of different ways to get around it. But even from the start, they never wanted to put those titles on the actual pay-per-views. It was only the kickoff. And once you merged it with NXT, I was thinking, all right, well, that's going to stick around for a little while. They've got the NXT Cruiserweight Championship. It's in Triple H's house. He is the one that spearheaded this. He cares. And then, of course, we've been seeing over the past couple of months, NXT just got completely fucking gutted. And everything was like, hey, if Triple H gave you a thumbs up and pointed at you, you're fucking gone, pal. Like it became this like vendetta, this witch hunt of like anti-Triple H kind of stuff. So that was pretty much the final nail in the coffin. It was like, there's no chance whatsoever that this is going to exist anymore. And we're just waiting for the inevitable. Once they started teasing the idea of like, maybe we're going to have some people that aren't on the 205 Live side of things, I could even justify them recording it ahead of time. They shouldn't have been calling it 205 Live, but what's the likelihood you're going to create another branding and not just pretend like it's not live? I understand. But when you started doing the Odyssey Jones stuff and you started to have, the women's competition on there, then you started having like Roderick Strong is like, I'll challenge anybody. It doesn't matter what your weight limit is, whatever. It's like, you're just, instead of pulling the Band-Aid off real quick and just getting it over with, you're struggling to like finally kill it. I'm glad it's dead. We don't need the purple brand anymore. They're not going to call it Evolve, so it's not purple. It's just a multicolored brand. Even their logo has changed. I see it as like red and green, red and blue, green and yellow. So I don't even know what to call this one. Guess it doesn't really matter. But the Level Up name, they could have done better. They could have done worse.
I think this really works for what they're doing. I like it. And I'm also just like happy to see something just slightly innovative and not just, we're doing 205 Live and you know what it is and shut up. I'm just glad that they put some effort into it. Also, kudos to Quinn McKay from Ring of Honor for getting hired by WWE.
Her name is Kelly Kincaid now. Yes. So I haven't seen much of her, but what I've seen of her, I've liked. So shout out to her too. As far as I'm aware, just on the announcing side, not on the wrestling side. But
for now, yeah. And never know. That Sidhu Shah person that they trademarked, that's also the play-by-play for NXT Level Up. So kudos to him.
Yeah, he did. I think the last 2 episodes of 205 Live is a little bit of a test run.
Yeah, like it's cool to see them getting new voices in every aspect.
Yeah, this is a step up or level up. And it's just like, okay, finally, we can all just acknowledge it for what it is. We've known that it's been main event for NXT for well over a year. Just do it. And they did. So thank fuck I don't have to talk about that anymore. Because I've been talking about that for I don't know how long. And it's over with. We don't have to see the ninjas that are on screen. I never understood that about 205 Live. The title had its shot. It fell by the wayside. We got some good people out of it. We got some bad people out of it. But Drew Gulak's awesome. I haven't seen him in a while. Awesome. But, we got that, Let's do another rather quick one. Actually, let's do a couple of little quick ones, and then we'll kind of circle back around to the other big one. There is an imminent TV deal, supposedly, for Control Your Narrative. EC3 and Braun Strowman have been teaming up on this. They have put out a press release that's saying that CYN is pretty much like at that level to where, hey, people should start paying attention to this. We're getting a TV deal. What do you guys think is going to come out of this?
That they're going to get a TV deal on a station that no one's ever heard of. That's probably the long and short of it, really.
Listen, I think they'll just end up on Fight TV, but Do you guys remember the Pursuit channel? Because if you listen to a lot of the responses that have come out since this trailer dropped, a lot of people seem to think that this belongs on the Pursuit channel or maybe even Fox News. Like, there are people that are just not feeling this, and I think maybe a full-blown promotion might be a bit much, but we'll see what it is. I mean, there's definitely a market for more wrestling TV. There's definitely a lot of people out there, but I don't know how far the control your narrative branding can go.
The thing about control your narrative is that it is a very different form of wrestling presentation, which is good in a way because it's always good to see like a unique interpretation out there. That's what made Lucha Underground so captivating for many early on. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be for everyone, because some people just want to see a good wrestling show that kind of fits into the mold that they're used to. Whereas this kind of stretches it a little bit further. Maybe that will make the opportunities for them to get a TV deal more lucrative or possible, just because of the fact that they are a different approach to it. But I just feel like there isn't enough equity in the brand yet, and realistically, it doesn't have the star power to really be on a network which is in any way significant.
Braun Strowman beat Goldberg. I just want to remind everybody of that.
Yeah, but he's not Braun Strowman. He's Adam Scherr, and no one knows who Adam Scherr is.
I mean, fine. I just it just seems so weird. His turnaround, man.
So I have not watched Control Your Narrative in any capacity.
No, I haven't seen any of it really, beyond a couple of vignettes.
But
I have not either.
From what I gather, and I might be wrong, so leave a comment below if I'm totally wrong. From what I gather, it's basically wrestlers that feel like they've got more creative control ability, I guess, where it's like, hey, I don't want writers telling me what to do in a promotion. I want to tell a story, and I'm going to go tell this story.
I'm going to go tell my narrative. Like, I'm going to go...
Like you would get like Zack Ryder, for instance, would do something like, I want to tell the story of what I would want to tell if I were to fight Kurt Hawkins. And that the two of them sit down, they sort it all out, they tell the feud, and they cut their own promos, and they do whatever supplemental stuff, and then they have the match. It seems like that's what it is for me, at least from an outsider's perspective, which to me is like, it's kind of neat, but at the same time, it's also not a promotion. That seems more like a special. Like,
so they're starting the live shows in March. They're doing one in Florida, one in Texas. That, I think, will form the identity of what the actual promotion will be, because the specials have been very much Zack Ryder gets released. Matt Cardona now needs to figure out how to control his narrative. Braun Strowman gets released. Adam Scherr now needs to release the Titan within. Fine for one-off deals, but how do you convey and turn that into an actual promotion?
Yeah, like, you're going to run out of people that get released and then are a big enough deal that anybody gives a shit. You know, it's not going to be like, you know, AQA just got signed by AEW after she left WWE. We're going to really get a whole bunch of people that are going to tune in to find out what her big deal was that she wanted to do. She's nobody right now. She has to work her way up to get to that point. And look, we got WWE with far too much television as it is to watch. We got AEW with 4 TV shows a week to watch. You got all the pay-per-views with everything. You got Impact. You got New Japan. You got GCW. You got NWA. For fuck's sake, if you really want to go to see any kind of alternatives, you're going to an indie show. You know what I mean? I don't think that there's enough space for everything.
I want to see what they do with it, but I also think it's very important to keep in mind that when people say things nowadays like TV deal, they can easily mean we are formatting a show and streaming on a platform like Fight TV.
Yeah, we're on Tubi or something.
Yeah, or Tubi, right? Or like one of those things, because I think a lot of people still see TV deal and they think like clearly they're going to go to Vice or something like that. But I think it's just we are formatting a wrestling episodic series, and we will form some kind of deal with some streaming platform that isn't a free platform like YouTube.
And I've talked about this a million times, so I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole too much, but I will put it out there again. I'm way past this era that we're in where everybody's like, I'm on the cusp of something different and I'm going to try out blank. And that's the thing that's going to catch on, and it's going to be the thing that's going to save me. So this is going to be, this is revolutionary. This is a blockchain, whatever fucking catchphrase we need to throw out there. Like this Movie Pass 2.0 bullshit where it's like, hey, you liked Movie Pass, right? Do you want Movie Pass 2.0? Well, what you liked about Movie Pass, none of that. Instead, we're going to do all this. It's like, people liked Movie Pass because they got to see movies for fucking dirt cheap. It was $10 a month and you could see any movie, like at least one movie a day for fucking free. So if you went to see one movie a month, you were saving money because it was going to be over $10. If you went to see 2, 3, 4, you were saving so much fucking money. And then they're like, yeah, but now you can watch ads and then that can possibly contribute towards money towards the thing. Nobody fucking cares. Nobody's going to do it. And I don't want to watch a show that's like, yeah, but this is a completely different wrestling program, or this is exactly the same of a wrestling program. But the difference is you can log on to this other streaming service and you can sign up for, how do you do, or whatever the fuck they would call it, because it's always these dumb names. It's always like, this one's like Flurb Flab. And if you go to Flurb Flab, then we've got access to all sorts of TV shows and movies. And then you browse the catalog and it's like, yeah, you've got a bunch of C-movie horror flicks that nobody's heard of before because you could get them dirt cheap. Nobody gives a shit. Let's just do the thing everybody knows is going to happen. Let's just cut to the chase, merge everything all over the fucking platforms. Also, another rant while I'm on it, I didn't bring up earlier that I wanted to. You're talking about, hey, once you have that wrestling match and, you had the perfect ending and you wanted to do it a little bit more than that, Last Jedi sucks. And you never should have done those sequels.
You know what's a great idea though? So that's all the frustrating things. But what's never a bad idea is Manscaped. Am I right, Tony?
Manscaped is never a bad idea. So what you should do is you should head on over to manscaped.com and you should use our promo code SMARK, SMARK, and get yourself 20% off and free shipping. Maybe you missed out on the Valentine's Day situation and you're thinking, man, if I would have just smelled a little bit better, I could have picked up that date. Well, you should have had the ball deodorant. You should have had the hair and body wash. You should have had the ball toner. All these different things like the foot duster and all that. They all smell great. Every single time that I use that body wash, my wife is always just kind of like smelling me like crazy and everything. She's a big smell type, kind of person who that's barely important to. She's talked about this in the past. So, I recommend all that stuff, the refined cologne. I recommend the crop mops and, whatever it is that you're interested in picking up. If you go to that website and you pick it up with that promo code, you're going to save that money on that deal. And that is something that you should always keep in mind. Whether you're doing something like picking up a brand new set of razor blades to fill the orders of the repetitive kind of thing, subscription type, or if you're interested in picking up a performance package and getting the big deals that they have going on. I believe right now, if you actually pick up the performance package, they give you some extra bonus things. You get the little travel kit, and I'm forgetting exactly what the other one was, but if you go to the website, you can find that out. All the products are great. We recommend them. So go on over to manscaped.com and pick that up. And there's a couple people that I think probably use Manscaped. I would imagine Corey Graves is probably one of those guys. Corey Graves has been tweeting out some lovey-dovey stuff, according to what his most recent stuff on social media said. He almost sent something to Vince McMahon or so in preparation of his reality show with Carmella. I'm assuming that, he's the type of guy that would use Manscaped, and he probably would use the promo code SMARK. He's a smart man. Let's talk about that. Corey Graves and Carmella are going to have a reality show. Are you guys going to check it out?
Well, yeah, I can easily check it out because it's 10 episodes that are 5 minutes each. I got 5 minutes a day. I'll check it out, sure.
That's all it is, 5 minutes?
5 minutes on YouTube. I'll check that out, yeah.
So literally less than an hour, sure.
Yeah.
Unless it's really that bad that it's just like, 10 minutes in, you're like, I'm not watching this. I thought it was just, 20 something minutes or so.
I've just found out it's that short and I still have no interest in watching. So no, I will not be watching any of these things.
I'm not a reality show guy, but I'll give it a shot. I tried watching Roads to the Top. Roads to the Top, that was the name of it, right? Or am I blanking on that, right? Roads to the Top. Yeah. I tried watching it. I watched 3 episodes, I think, and then I was just like, okay, nope. We reached a point where I'm starting to see how they're manipulating everything, and I'm not into that. I don't like any reality shows that are not actual reality, which is essentially none of them, because they're all, hey, how about on this episode we fabricate this kind of thing? How about you guys all go fucking horsefly, whatever, fishing? Horsefly fishing? I don't know. I'm making this shit up on the
spot. Fly fishing?
I've never done it before. Shoe fly, don't bother me fishing, or horseshoe throwing. I don't know. Yeah, they do those kind of things. They set up that kind of scenario. It's always like, who can fight on this one? Who can argue about whether or not they're sisters at the end? I don't care about that. But hey, if Corey Graves and Carmella end up presenting something that's a little bit different, I might be in. I don't know. Let's go to pick a number between 1 and 3. What are you?
2.
All right. AEW has signed a 16-year-old to an apprenticeship contract. His name is Nick Wayne. I have not seen a single thing from him. This is all I know about the story. Sure, I guess.
All right, Callum, you want to take over?
Yeah, I can tell you a bit about this. So Nick Wayne is, I'd say, like, teenager. He's been wrestling since he was about 8 years old. He's the son of a pretty well-known, or at least in some circles, wrestling trainer called Buddy Wayne, who is probably best well-known for training Brian Alvarez of the Wrestling Observer fame and stuff along those lines. Ran a few promotions. I think they were associated with like Defy and Black Label Pro and stuff like that. Buddy Wayne passed away about 5 years ago, I believe. So Nick's basically grown up with, spent a lot of his adolescence without a father, but he is kind of seen as a prodigy in wrestling. He had a match with On Defy against Joey Janela a couple of months ago. I think it was like October time. It's the best match I've seen Joey Janela have in ages. It was awesome. And the best thing about it is that Joey Janela was booked to win, and he called an audible mid-match to have Nick win instead. And the funny also things going around that is that Joey Janela is actually going to be working a lot of Defy shows going forward, even though he's still currently contracted to AEW. But it could be something that keeps Joey around in AEW for a while, because him and Nick are very close, and him and Nick have a lot, like, he's kind of like a big brother to Nick, and so that could be a good transition for them. The thing with Nick being 16 means that he cannot wrestle in certain parts of the country at his age, because there are certain stipulations, certain regulations in different, I think in New York and other places as well, you have to be at least 18 years old to actually be employed as a wrestler. But there are certain other places which are a bit more lax. I think Florida in particular is one of the places, which is useful because Dark is filmed in Florida. And so he could appear on episodes of AEW Dark and stuff along those lines. And if the AEW comes to Florida, he could wrestle there as well. But the point of this being is that it's under an apprenticeship contract. It was the Defy show. He fought in the main event against Christopher Daniels for the championship. Yeah, Christopher Daniels is wrestling just for Defy, not for AEW at the moment. He is the current Defy interim world champion. Nick Wayne lost that match, but then Darby Allin came out after the match, handed him a contract. Nick accepted there. Apparently, there was only like a handful of people that knew this was going to happen. Nick didn't know it was going to happen. His family didn't know it was going to happen. Brian Alvarez said on when he talked about this on the Wrestling Observer radio that he didn't know it was going to happen. It was Darby, a couple of other guys backstage, because they had Shane Strickland turned up on that show as well. So Swerve Scott for any other people that are more associated with his WWE name. So he's going to be appearing in Defy soon as well. And Yeah, it was just a really cool moment for a really up and coming prospect, making him the second youngest member of the AEW roster.
And of course, -1 has him beat by
Yeah.
a little bit, but
yeah, exactly. But that's like, it's just a cool thing to look at that and just feel, wow. I remember seeing some tweets following it happening about like, wow, in 20 years' time, like hit this guy a -1 and Dante Martin are going to be like right on top of the AEW rankings, while like Hangman Page is in some sort of authority position or something like that. It's just showing that they are building for the future, and there is a lot of hype surrounding this kid. He seems like an absolute natural.
Cool news. I like hearing things like that.
Yeah, it is a cool thing for someone that because I do listen to a lot of the Wrestling Observer News. I probably have a lot more familiarity to him than people that obviously watch just the AEW WWE stuff.
His grandfather is one of the Moondogs.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Hell yeah, that's kind of cool.
So he's a third generation superstar. So that's something to a feather in his cap as well.
Moondog.
So I think
what a time to be alive.
So I think
that'd be something for you if you guys think about it.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a precedent that could be set here. I think they should sign Billy Starks, who's I think 16 or 17, and she's constantly wrestling people like Allie Catch, and I think she just had a match recently against Ruby. You know, like let's get her in there. You know, if you're gonna do this, that's cool that you're establishing this precedent. I like the idea that these younger talents have a good place to go instead of having to slum it. Because GCW is great, but like, there's a lot of really scummy promotions that maybe, scare these kids off or deter them from trying to move forward in wrestling. So I think this could be a really good thing.
Or, bad trainers that end up like, they don't teach them how to properly do something. The kids get injured. They can't fucking wrestle in the future. You see plenty of things like that. Like,
I'll train you. Give me $1,000, and then you give it to him. And, yeah.
WWE signed somebody on the younger side, Rok-C from Ring of Honor. I don't know anything really about her too, but I've heard good things.
Well, she's the previous Ring of Honor Women's Champion. Of course, Deonna Purrazzo is the current champion, even though Ring of Honor doesn't really exist at this point in time, but it's coming back, so they still have the championships around. Very talented, as much as I've seen from her. Again, it's not a huge repertoire of matches I've seen, but she does seem to have a lot of charisma. She is, I think she's 19, 20 at the moment.
19, I think.
I think she's still 19.
Yeah, so kind of like fits into the same sort of Cora Jade mold. That's kind of the thing that maybe just puts my eyebrow a little bit raised. The fact that like they kind of seem, just from a look perspective, very similar, and obviously from the same age background. So they'll either be thrown together in a tag team, or they'll become like the lifelong rivals in NXT. Is like which one of them is the up and comer until one of them is like the star on the NXT 2.0 side of things.
So she's currently 20. She was born November 5th, 2001.
That's good.
That make you feel fucking old. Yes.
Yeah, no.
I hate that so much.
But,
I hate it.
But yeah,
I did it.
Yeah, it's a good sign. It's a good signing for WWE. I think that was always going to be I think she went on like multiple tryouts with them as well. So I think that was. But again, we don't know whether she is signed as well. We have to add the caveat that the only reason we're putting this out there is because Booker T says that she's signed.
Right, similar to like last week or something when Santino said that his daughter was signed. Like nobody else did, but he did. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes.
Yes, we're not saying she isn't signed, but nobody has confirmed it beyond Booker T yet. So, God, take that with a little bit of pinch of salt, especially with some of the shit that Booker T says. I also wanted to, I know we haven't got this down on our Trishy, but I know we were talking about, well, at least tangentially talking about him earlier, so I thought we might as well be bringing him up. Matt Cardona is the NWA Heavyweight Champion.
Hell yeah! I think that's fantastic.
Who did he beat?
He beat Trevor
Murdoch.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he was champion, wasn't he?
Now,
I haven't watched NWA for a hell of a long time.
Let me ask you a question. If you had Matt Cardona in the run that he's on and Trevor Murdoch, which one would you go with? Because I'd go with Matt Cardona because he's on the roll of his life. Sure, he's probably going to lose it back to Aldis because everybody loses the NWA championship to Aldis. But Cardona's great.
Cardona is the biggest thing on the indies right now, like just pretty universally. And I think that if I'm Tony Khan, I'm saying, yeah, I'm giving him another shot in AEW and actually giving him a contract at this point. Yeah, bringing him in because he's been such an awesome heel on the independent circuit because he knows what to do in these circumstances. With GCW, all he had to do was be Zack Ryder, and that's just enough to get everyone to hate him, and then just like claim to be like the king of hardcore and all this other stuff, even though he's from the WWE PG era. So, and he's making it work in NWA, he's making it work in Impact Wrestling. Yeah, he's pretty much everywhere other than the top two promotions right now, and he's making as big a name for himself now as he ever did, probably since his peak in WWE, which was in like 2010.
Look, I mean, Trevor Murdoch's peak was 20 years ago.
His peak was a couple of months ago, and he won the NWA.
When he won the NWA title, yeah.
I mean, as far as like his potential, like, you know, what are you going to do with him? Are you going to build him to something? And I would, if you have anybody versus Trevor Murdoch, there's very few names that I'd be like, oh, I'd go Trevor Murdoch over that one. I was never a fan of him, even with Lance Cade. So
I do just want to point out that I am the one that took them in our all-time roster, because I do like Cade and Murdoch. It's just, all right, it's 2022. Which one are you going to go with? Yeah. I'm going Cardona. I think, like, it makes me so happy to see him succeed this way, because he was nothing but a WWE guy, flat out, because that's all he ever had the chance to do. And now he's not only succeeding, he's thriving on the indie scene. When it kind of felt like, I don't know, maybe Impact picks him up and he has the, hey, I'm still on TV run. And he's just doing so many cool things. He's wrestling X-Pac later this month. He's the Impact Digital Media Champion, the NWA World Champion. He was the GCW Champion, lost it to Moxley. Like, he's doing a lot of cool things, and I'm very happy to see it.
Still going to hold off on the other main topic. We're going to talk about a couple other smaller ones. Wrestling Observer Newsletter 2022 awards. I haven't gone through the whole thing yet, but is there any that stand out to you that are, you know, interesting, odd, you know, of course that was going to be the pick, that kind of thing. There's some that, like, I totally understand, like Most Improved, Tai Conchi. Yeah, she's been doing great. Best Booker, Tony Khan. I'm not surprised at all. Promoter of the Year, Tony Khan, same deal. Promotion of the Year, All Elite Wrestling. Yeah, a lot of AEW positive stuff, which, you know, totally worth that. I'm surprised they went worst gimmick Alexa Bliss. I thought that some other ones probably would have potentially won that. It's not good, but, you know, it's a little bit of a shot.
All the awards are all very, very kind of understandable about where they come from. It's not like there's any, like, standout where I just look at it as like, really they went with this one instead. It's just like, yeah, you got Kenny Omega is the wrestler of the year. Makes total sense to me. Like, he was AEW world champion for the vast majority of last year, so it makes sense. You got like Shingo Takagi as the most outstanding wrestler, and I think it's a nice little nod to him because he was working New Japan at a time when just New Japan is just, I don't say falling apart at the seams, but it's losing momentum at a huge rate. But he was having kick-ass matches every single time that he could, and so yeah, it's worthwhile giving him there. The Young Bucks best tag team, I'd say that's pretty much consensus at this point. I don't think there's anyone else that would really stand out from the past year. MJF best talker, of course. MJF's the best talker. Like, best promotion, AEW. I'd pretty much say that the majority of people would go with AEW as the best promotion right now.
Most disgusting promotional tactic, WWE firing wrestlers during a pandemic while setting profit records. Yup.
I mean, I would say that's not a promotional tactic.
Yeah, that's my argument with that. I don't think that's a promotional tactic. It was a tactic done by a promotion, but it was not for promotional value.
I would argue it is because they keep going and going, like, you know, oh, how great are we? We got this, you know, record profits.
Yeah, but they're not using that to promote a storyline, thankfully.
I think they're just using it to promote the company as a whole. So I'd throw it out there. Anytime you can crap on that. Yeah.
And you got the Young Bucks and Lucha Brothers were the the match of the year and from All Out. I guess it was kind of a close run thing, probably between that, the Danielson Omega match, and the first Danielson Page match. But yeah, I'd say they were probably the front runners. I'd say there's pretty much nothing on these lists that confuse me or think that it's incorrect. I do like that the Bryan Danielson Award for Best Technical Wrestler was won by Bryan Danielson. It's always good to see. And it's called the Bryan Danielson, and previous years it's been won by Daniel Bryan, and now it's actually been won by Bryan Danielson because he's got his original name back. I
like Excalibur winning Best Announcer. I like that.
Yeah, I think that he's very worthwhile of that. I think that's a second year in a row he's won that, so that's cool. I think he's very, very worthy of that. We had John Moxley win Best Brawler for second year running. Ray Phoenix win Best High Flyer for the second year running. Most overrated, Evil from New Japan. That is 100% correct. I don't think that there's any. He's so bad. He's so terrible. Why are they pushing him? Why are they pushing this House of Torture? It's the worst thing. Ricochet winning Most Underrated for the second year in a row. I'd say he's one of many that could fit in that category for WWE. I think both Chad Gable and Mustafa Ali were both in that discussion as well. Jade Cargill, Rookie of the Year. Yep, absolutely. Paul Heyman, Best Non-Wrestler.
Yeah.
I'd say so. Paul Heyman was really good last year with the whole Roman Reigns side of things as well. Worst television announcer. You'll probably disagree with this one, guys, but Corey Graves.
Yeah, I don't think he's worst or anything.
It's his second win of that award in 3 years. So
yeah,
clearly...
I don't think that's fair when the Impact announce team was the shape that it was in.
Yeah, Matt Striker should definitely have won that. Yeah, I'd say so.
I feel like people hate Corey Graves because they hate his character and they don't realize it, you know?
Well, I guess that's kind of the point, isn't it, really? Like, if you don't like the character, you still don't like... It's not like they're saying worst announcer because they don't like the guy. They just don't like the way that he's announcing because he's playing a character.
I mean, like, if they were to not see the visual of him, I think that they wouldn't hate him. You know what I mean? Like, if they didn't see him do the little bow at the beginning of the introductions, and they didn't see that he had, like, his shaved head with the mohawk kind of front, like... I think that's kind of low. It was like, oh, look at this douchebag. And then it's kind of like, well, you know, I mean, he's kind of trying to be a heel a little bit. Like, you know.
Well, Excalibur wears a mask.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to have it.
I think the problem with Graves is that Graves is knee deep in like full WWE mode now. Whereas when he first started, he still had kind of like a natural feel. And he's been doing it in WWE for so long, he's become just propaganda machine, and he's always on in that WWE style. But I don't even think he's the worst at that. I mean, like, Cole is there, and he's like the WWE guy if you're going to go in that direction. Mm. And there's also Adnan Virk.
Yeah, Adnan Virk here. He's, you know. I miss that guy in some ways.
So you had like All Out won best like pay-per-view or big show or major wrestling show as it's called, and Survivor Series got the worst. So I think that's pretty much in line with our own awards as well. A lot of the stuff.
Egg.
I'll just say that, just seeing if there's any other one that's interesting. Monday at Raw for I believe that's the 8th straight year in a row got worst wrestling show. That's that is consistency, if anything else. That is the consistency that we've been looking for from WWE. Worst match was
82 weeks to to bed.
Worst match of the year: The Miz versus Damian Priest in the Zombie Lumberjack match. One of many potential options. Yeah. I think second in that was Randy Orton versus The Fiend at WrestleMania. So
that one.
Yeah, and the overall worst feud of the year was Randy Orton versus The Fiend and Alexa Bliss, which I think is worthy.
I'm gonna send that GIF that I keep sending of "I told you."
Yeah.
Go back to when it's the whole like me going like, "This is gonna suck. I don't want to spend 5 months leading to this. It's gonna be great. Don't worry about it."
Listen to what was it, SummerSlam 2019, where Cal and I are just like, "Yay, Fiend!" and Cody's just I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and then a couple of other ones like Best Pro Wrestling Book, John Moxley's autobiography. I haven't read it, but I've just heard nothing but good things about it, so I see that being the case. And Best Pro Wrestling Documentary, Brian Pillman's Dark Side of the Ring, which I think it's probably between that and the Plane Ride from Hell one, just because of all the shit that got stirred after that. But yeah, basically all awards.
What else
pretty much.
What else was up for the Dark Documentary of the Ring?
I don't have the full listings in front of me. I'm just looking down the list on Wikipedia right now, so I don't have the all of them lined up, unfortunately. I'm assuming it was just all Dark Side of the Ring, because what other wrestling documentaries? It was basically, it's between that and anything that WWE put out recently. Unless you would cast some of the like last year they did the A&E.
They did the Icons.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Those were really good.
Yeah, the A&E documentaries as well. So, but yeah, I think Pillman's worthwhile because that's a story that everyone kind of wants to know about.
Love to see the Vladimir one. Generally speaking, we're gonna breeze past this, I'm assuming. Is there anything on the TV side of things you guys feel like bringing up? Because there's nothing on my end.
Well, okay, one, and it's a spoiler for tonight's SmackDown. Sami Zayn's Intercontinental Champion, yay.
Like that. Shinsuke Nakamura loses it on his third title defense in about 6 months as champion. That's pretty cool.
Is Shinsuke like the best example of somebody that they give a championship to and then they promptly say, and that's fucking it? Because they've done this like 4 times now where they're like, here's a championship, Shinsuke. In a couple months, when we remember you've gotten it, we'll take it away from you. And then he just fucks off. They don't do anything with him, ever. United States Intercontinental, he just holds the title and disappears.
Kofi used to be in that position back in the day. Ziggler had that position for years.
Baffling.
Like Moxley famously...
the US title.
Rose famously had the US title for a year and defended it like 5 times.
How?
Yeah, the US title.
I think it's more just an overall thing of WWE doesn't really care about their mid-card championships.
It's so, like, how do you fucking not care about that?
They'll
like, why?
They'll go into a phase in like 2 years where everything really matters again for 6 months, and
they're about to start caring about it because, and I'm calling it right now, the prediction right now, Sami Zayn is going to defend the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania against Johnny Knoxville.
Oh, 100%.
As he should.
He's totally going to.
I think it's not out of the realm of possibility that John Knoxville wins the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania and loses it like the next very next episode of SmackDown.
Why not?
It wouldn't shock me at all because they just want to get people talking. Yep. Which is like, remember when this used to be the good belt?
Winning the world title. It's their equivalent of David Arquette winning the world title.
Hmm.
It's not like it's not even the 24/7 championship or anything. Sami Zayn should, if they wanted to do this, Sami Zayn should be the 24/7 champion. That's
True.
Then like, because they've done this before. It's like, who cares about the 24/7 title? It'll just be a funny story. They're actually going to do this with their actual Intercontinental Championship. You know, the title belt that's been around since the 1970s, and that fucking Shawn Michaels and Triple H and The Rock and Steve Austin and all these legends have held. It's like,
it's my favorite belt
John Cena
ever.
hasn't held the Intercontinental title, and John Knoxville's about to.
Yeah.
Well, when you put it like that, come on, man.
Yeah, it's not something that I'm looking forward to, and it's not the type of thing that makes me go, oh man, WrestleMania, this is gonna be so great. We got a big name here in Johnny Knoxville, and he's gonna win the championship. Isn't this so fun? It's like, no, you're fucking over the Intercontinental Championship. Like,
do you think Johnny Knoxville will be the Celebrity Hall of Fame inductee this year?
Oh.
No, I think he'll be next year.
Next year, yeah, next year.
Because it'll be Hollywood.
And he'll be a former Intercontinental champion at that point, so you can actually go on the wrestling side of things.
You tell me they don't have better Hollywood examples?
I think next year they go Johnny Knoxville. I think they go The Rock. And if they can't do The Rock, Batista.
I think they do David Arquette. I think they do The Rock, and they do Batista.
Possibly. Yeah, it's... We got 2 more stories to talk about here, and they're, I mean, I don't know, maybe kind of tied in together in some fashion or whatever. But one of them we don't really know much about. It's just sort of pure speculation. Tony Khan's teased that something massive is coming. Any ideas?
Well, it's Veer, obviously.
Now, Veer's never coming. Do you guys, real quick, do you guys think that Veer is going to pull another Brodus Clay, where they do the whole, like, He's coming, and fuck you. You thought that this was going to be worth something.
Programming every week, except nobody watches Main Event.
Yeah, but do you think that they're going to do that whole thing?
I just really think he's going to be released after WrestleMania, and they're never going to actually debut.
Possibly.
He's just going to be part of budget cuts. That is just my perspective right now. That he's just going to be one of like a dozen or so budget cuts they make in like April. At some point,
we know what's happening after Mania.
But the thing is, he's got. If that was to happen, he would have a ready-made gimmick for life. He's just constantly. Veer's coming. Hey, he's coming.
He comes out an episode of Raw as like Veer Mahan, and then he just grabs the mic and says, "I can't be this person anymore because like I'm going to come back as the real Veer, like the Emelina thing instead." So it's just Emelina, and now I'm just coming back as Emma instead. I don't want to be Veer Mahan. I need to be Veer instead.
Yeah, he's going to be instead of Veer Mahan, he's Veer Melina.
Veer Melina, yeah.
It's all one word, just Veer Melina. Shit, I hate it. But anyway, Tony Khan teasing that something massive is coming. Massive in the works could be a lot of things. We know that he's going to be signing people.
I don't think it's a wrestler.
I don't think it is either. I think that when he comes to signing a new person, he tends to be like, I've got somebody coming in. And this massive thing to come, my first gut instinct was telling me streaming.
But yeah, that's a possibility. Selfishly, from my perspective, I'm hoping that it's a pay-per-view in the UK.
That'd be cool.
Or a show in the UK.
Happen too, yeah.
Or a tour in the UK, because that is something I would move heaven and earth to go to at this point in time. So yeah, that's selfishly what I'm going to be hoping for. But yeah, it could be a streaming deal. It could be just a big show announcement they've got coming up. Maybe they've booked out MSG, something like that, or got
awesome.
Or a bigger stadium, or like another big stadium show like a Grand Slam or something like that in the works. It doesn't strike me as the terminology that he uses for a signing. So,
well, he said we'll know in the next week. I hope it's streaming. I really want to be able to just see any AEW show at any time, and I feel like they've got enough signings and potential signings that I'm hoping he's not teasing another signing as like this heaven and earth moving kind of thing.
I mean, we do know that there's people that are going to be coming in, like more than likely Shane Strickland, Jeff Hardy, a list of them.
That's one of the things from TV shows. They seem to be teasing Buddy Matthews joining the House of Black.
Huh.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
That's the third, according to Fightful Select.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think that's going to be the big thing. Is like something massive. It's we got Buddy Matthews, but
yeah,
I like him. Huge. Just not to downplay it.
All of those will be good contributions to the roster. None of them are like
massive.
Like they're not Cole or Danielson or Punk. So, but they will be good additions to the roster when and if they do get signed.
Yeah, I think it's got to be something that's bigger than even if they were to say like they announced another Battle of the Belts is coming. If they were to just be like, we got another show like that, that's not big enough. I think it needs to be something real big. A streaming service or, like you said, a live event tour that culminates in a pay-per-view overseas. That could be a big deal. Maybe something like another pay-per-view just in general. Like, okay, we're going to do 5 a year instead of 4. I don't think it's going to be something like another TV show. I think that they're tapped out for that.
Yeah. It won't be. Yeah. As much as we'd want it to be, it's not going to be the video game. That they're still seemingly a bit of a distance away from that. So I think it'd be highly unlikely it's the console game.
Plus, they already announced it, so it's like if they just said the massive news is here's the release date, that'll be like fuck you. You could have just said that,
So, and that's not his territory anyway. Him saying it's going to be massive in the world of wrestling, like. I don't think they're hyping Flair at this point because I think everybody knows, that wouldn't be it.
Going to like a really ridiculous stretch or anything like that. Again, we might as well just go to some like just absolutely wild speculation in there as well. He could buy Ring of Honor.
That's the other one I was going to say. If you wouldn't have gone in that direction, I would have been like, okay, I need to turn this back around to this because that's the other thing I was thinking was, What if the massive news that he said, "Oh, I haven't finalized it yet. Maybe I will tonight," or something? Let me try to find what that quote was, because that,
Well,
I'm
have
always
the quote right in front of me. There will be a lot of news in the week ahead. I don't know if I'll get it done by tonight, but stay tuned in the week ahead. I'm working on something pretty big. It would be massive. I don't know if it's what anybody would expect or think it is, but it would be a big deal in the world of wrestling. I'm looking forward to hopefully making it happen. Stay tuned. I will hopefully get it done and have more to announce soon.
Yeah, so that, I mean, that could be...
The Ring of Honor thing sounds good.
Yeah, that could be where that goes. And I'd be totally up for that, because if he's kind of looking at that as like, look, Ring of Honor, maybe they don't know where they're going to go in the future. Maybe they don't have the funds for this. Maybe we can just do some kind of deal. They can be whatever they, if they want to be like a subsidiary, or maybe they are just a partnership, or maybe they don't exist anymore. I don't know.
Well, not so fast, because Ring of Honor recently held a Facebook kind of chat with fans where they said they're going to resume touring after April, and they're also going to have a new logo, and they're rebranding in that way.
Huh. It could just be happenstance, but I don't know. I guess we'll find out soon enough. But one person who doesn't seem like they're going to be involved in this is Cody Rhodes. And this, finally, of course, is like massive news. Like, we were talking about this before. We were like, man, on a week where Stone Cold Steve Austin might be returning to action, and we can talk about that, Cody Rhodes and Brandy Rhodes leave AEW. And there is so much to this. I mean, little things, big things. Things like we just talked about the video game. You got to assume Cody and Brandy were in that fucking video game. They're going to take them out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, just to put some stories out there, we'll try to go back on this, but like, where does he go next? Why did he leave? Why did Cody and Brandy leave, but not Dustin? What's going on with the Nightmare Factory? Fucking AEW heels. That's a nothing thing or something at this point. Who replaces Brandy as the chief brand officer? Or do we just get the confirmation that that was a completely pointless position and it was just all nepotism and they don't need one? Rhodes to the top and Go Big Show tied with Turner. What's happening with that relationship? There's so much to this. Without even getting into speculation of like, if he goes to WWE, who does he fight at WrestleMania and what happens with this? Even just the pure fact that he's leaving, that's a big, big fucking deal.
So many levels there, but I'll say if he's really leaving and he's not going to WWE, then there's no point in leaving, because at this point, where else do you go? You don't leave to go to Impact.
You don't start up another company again.
Unless it has something to do with like rebranding Ring of Honor or something that already exists. You know what I mean? Like, and even then, it's not as big as AEW. The only thing as big and bigger is WWE. And I can't wrap my head around the idea that they won't be involved in AEW going forward. They were such a big part of it that I can't imagine that they wouldn't be involved. But if it is all happening, my first question is, did we learn that by the boys for the boys is a stupid thing and didn't work? I mean, in all fairness, honestly, like, did we learn that didn't work?
I think that was pretty much a guarantee from the start, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, there are so many things to unpack in this entire thing, and there's so much news and differing opinions and information out there that it's hard to like condense it all down, and it's worth at least talking about a lot of the different aspects of it. But fundamentally, at just the core level, Cody is the guy. Without Cody, there's no AEW.
Correct.
And Cody is the guy that left the company looking because they weren't treating him correctly. He left WWE because he didn't want to be Stardust anymore, and there were issues with him backstage with seemingly predominantly Triple H. and all of that side of things. He goes out, he becomes a phenomenon on the indies.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah. And obviously makes a big splash in Ring of Honor, does stuff with the NWA as well, Impact. Then there's the whole All In, which was essentially built on the bet that was made online with Dave Meltzer saying, could an independent show sell a 10,000-seater arena? And he said, I doubt it. And Cody and the Bucks took him up on that bet, and they have All In. All In directly leads to AEW forming. Cody and the Bucks are the first 3 people that appear on that announcement show that back in January of 2019, saying that AEW is now here and it's coming. And that's a huge thing for 3 years later for him to be no longer associated with the company in any way at all, like him and Brandy both going. And as much as people like to shit on Cody in many different ways because he was very unpopular in a very vocal section of the AEW fan base towards the end of his run because of this certain things that were all tied up with the Codyverse and how he ended racism and all this other stuff. But
I always thought that was fucking funny. It always makes me laugh.
But with Cody, the thing with Cody is that Cody helped build so many of the stars that AEW has now, that at the start of AEW were people that nobody really, to a grand sense, knew about unless you were really hardcore checking out the indies. Without Cody, Darby Allin doesn't reach the levels that he's reached. MJF doesn't reach the levels that he's reached so far.
Jungle Boy, Sammy Guevara.
Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara was the first guy that he fought on Dynamite, and he was the last guy he fought on Dynamite as well. And that match was one of the I know there've been multiple ones, but it was the latest 5-star match that AEW has done on TV, and that was like a great way to put the young guy over. He put Brody Lee over for the championship. When he was the TNT champion, that's what brought Eddie Kingston to the company. That's what brought loads of other people, like at least gave him the opportunity. Ricky Starks was brought to the company on that as well. Had Orange Cassidy was given matches against him and helped get him over to a higher level. And he willingly refused to fight for their world championship. He willingly put himself away from the title picture so he wouldn't be overshadowing people. And so he could concentrate on building up the next generation of people. Cody was never selfish in that regard, and he always endeavored to try and create as much foundation as possible because he knows that if other people become stars, then the promotion works. And if he's a star in that promotion, then he's doing well for himself. What this seems to be in this whole now separation between the two of them seems to me to come down to a mixture of lack of booking power and money. Seems to be the two big factors. Tony is the head booker. Tony makes all of the decisions. Tony has made pretty much all the decisions since the end of 2020, when that whole fucking Dark Order attacking the Elite debacle. In 2019, sorry, when that fucking Dark Order debacle attacking the Elite, and that was a point where people were genuinely worried about, is this promotion actually going to get off the ground type thing. And then it's gone from strength to strength since then. And Cody has always been kind of distinct in his own little world. Hasn't been interacting with like the Bucks or Kenny Omega on TV. He's always been fighting QT Marshall or Anthony Ogogo or doing his things with Malachi Black. It's always in a very separate, distinct little box. Like there's whatever's Cody's doing, and then there's the rest of AEW. Because
there's like the Elite just keeps stacking on top of each other. You got Paige and Omega and the Bucks and Gallows and Anderson and Cole and Kyle O'Reilly, and you're like literally everybody hovering around this idea, and Cody's in the mix with that, and they're like, but not Cody.
Not you, yeah.
Because they could have very easily done a match like the original plan for Blood and Guts would have been Cody, Kenny, the Young Bucks, and Paige against the Inner Circle.
Seemingly, that's what was announced.
That's what advertised, yeah.
Right, and it's like that would have been, the Elite essentially against the Inner Circle, the way that it seemed like the company was kind of built around, and then Cody stopped being a part of it. And there's so much that, like, of course, we're probably never going to know, and some of it we can speculate on, and it can be completely just off the wall from what the reality is. But I've always had this thing, and I've always been saying this from the start. It's been feeling like there's multiple different ways that people are booking this company, and that eventually it was just going to come to a head and only one of them was going to survive. It seemed to me like Kenny Omega is just sort of like, okay, let's bring in Joshi talent. Let's have matches. Like, this match will be good. The end. Kind of a deal. You know what I mean? Like, you got guy who can wrestle versus guy who can wrestle. People will watch because they want to see guys wrestle. And girls too, but just like person versus person wrestle. The Bucks seem like they're very much into meta. So like, hey, let's, we were fans of Shawn Michaels. Let's dress up like Shawn Michaels would have been. And we'll do the Too Sweet thing. And we'll do this and we'll do that. And hey, when you're in the Bullet Club, you're in Bullet Club for life. Haha. Because remember, that's kind of like the NWO. Ha ha ha. Like, it seems like that meta wrestling, laughing at itself and referencing things. And we're going to call our move the Meltzer driver. Like, that seems their style. Tony Khan seems like he's kind of a little bit towards like the Vince McMahon style. Of course, vastly different in some ways, but like, let's have a well-rounded product. Let's have some funny people and some serious people and some people that are promos and some people that don't talk and managers. He seems like old school Vince McMahon. Cody has always given me this impression. He wants this to be WCW 2. He went after copyright stuff like Bash at the Beach. Even if he couldn't get it, like War Games, he was trying to trademark The Match Beyond, which is like the supplemental name for it. They're on TNT, the TBS thing, that whole deal. It really felt like Cody wanted to try to be Dusty. And I don't blame him for trying. I'm sure that if I was in his position, I would have done the same. But if you're Tony Khan and you've got a guy who's, these multiple EVPs that are all trying to approach it with like, here's my creative idea. If Cody's kind of going in as like, yeah, but I should be the Dusty and we should do it this way, that overtakes more of Tony Khan's position than the Young Bucks being like, let's have some fun and do this story. You know what I mean? And I can see where Tony Khan could be like, no, it's my company. I'll take your suggestions, but we're not going to just do Bash at the Beach. I want to make my own thing, Well,
again, I think that people like still put too much weight onto the fact that they think that the EVPs had a lot of creative booking power. They had a lot of power to obviously, again, make suggestions and probably had more of a say than other ones. But at the end of the day, Tony Khan, what Tony says goes.
Right.
That is it. That is, if Tony doesn't agree to it, it doesn't happen. And that seems to be something that other people seem to buy into. Maybe this was something that Cody felt more strongly about than other people. But then that adds into the question of, if he really cares about booking and being like pushing himself creatively, why the fuck is he going to WWE? And that's where the money issue comes into it. Right. Mm-hmm. So the money's the big deal. Money to me is the crux, because fundamentally, you're coming from two completely, I'll say opposing situations, but two completely understandable situations for me, which is Cody rightly saying he's the guy that's, without him, this whole promotion doesn't exist. He's one of their biggest drawing stars. He's like an actual like crossover star as well, because he's got the Go Big Show and he's got Roads to the Top as well. So he's gradually becoming associated with the TNT brand beyond just AEW. So he can rightly go out to Tony Khan and says, I think I'm worth this much money now that we're going back into renegotiating our deal. And Tony Khan can, from his just purely wrestling AEW perspective, can look at him and say, well, since we started AEW, I've now got Bryan Danielson and CM Punk and Adam Cole and stars now that have been built up from like the four pillars that have been grown up from the ground up. I've got Britt Baker now, who's a star. I've got Thunder Rosa. I've got loads of people now that are genuine draws within the company or can be positioned in that way. And so, also we've been in this little situation seemingly in the past 18 months or so where you're doing your thing and it's getting very polarizing reactions and you seemingly refuse to turn heel, even though everyone seemingly wants you to turn heel. And Brandy as a character is as even more polarizing than you, if not like to downright hate it as a TV character.
And that's a track record too. Brandy has not had a good track record in AEW. The Nightmare Factory thing, or the Nightmare Family, was garbage.
Nightmare Collective, yeah.
Nightmare Collective. That's what. There's too many fucking nightmares.
Yeah, Nightmare Family is just who they are.
That's right.
Just Cody and Brandy and stuff like that.
Factory is the training facility. Family is the group.
Is the Cody group,
Collective.
Collective was the Brandy.
Was the shit with Mel and whatever. Like Brandy's been, she's tried a couple things and they pretty much all failed.
Yeah, and so you get into that situation where Tony can kind of probably see from his perspective that AEW has gotten to a point, at least from a creative perspective, that they would love to have Cody Rhodes, and Cody would really add to it still, and he understands the value Cody has, but he thinks that what Cody is now seeing himself as justifiably wanting probably a raise and wanting more money because of the position that he's now built himself up to, that maybe he doesn't need that, and that money could be better positioned to bring more talent in from the indies, and a free agent market that is now fit to bursting over the past 2 years because of the actions of WWE.
Mm-hmm.
So you're now in. Well, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, it's like my question is, wouldn't you be even more infuriated if you were Cody? If somebody, I don't care if it's going on, I don't care if if you feel Tony's right, if that's what he's saying, I'd be fucking pissed. Like, no, I made this. This is all me.
Right.
You can't just magically say, "Oh, well, sorry, kid, we've got Punk and Danielson." I'd be fuming.
I'm totally on board with the idea that Cody could be justifiably upset that they're not giving him the money that he has probably rightly earned in ways. But I also take on Tony's perspective as well, not this Tony, but Tony Khan's perspective. Khan's perspective of they don't need to give that amount of money to Cody because they're in a good position right now. At the end of the day, Cody is not. It sounds hard to say because he's such a huge part of the foundation, but the company has grown to the point where he is not an accessory, but he's not an essential on TV. He's one of many big stars they have. They can do without one big star.
See, I fundamentally disagree with that. And I think that even though, yes, it showed that he wasn't as selfish, I think that him taking himself out of the world title stuff formed the Codyverse and then formed this weird, other thing that was happening on the show. But I fundamentally disagree because when you mixed him up with the rest of the roster, it was gold. And there were stories to be told. And I don't believe that they'd let him go.
Again, I don't disagree with that assessment at all. I think that there was a lot more that was left on the table with Cody. Of course, he was only there for 3 years. So there was so much more that he could and probably should have done with other wrestlers on the roster. We never saw the program with him and Adam Page, really. We never saw a program with him and Omega, really. We never saw, even though obviously we've seen that in New Japan and stuff like that, but there are loads of other people in the roster. Like, they've just brought in Keith Lee. We've never seen that or anything along those lines. Never did anything with Punk or never did anything with Danielson. There is a huge amount they left on the table. My argument to that is, well, it's just matches and it's just stories. They're going to have other exciting matches and stories. The only difference is that he's going to be wanting to be earning a damn sight a lot more money than some of the other people we're going to be making those stories with.
I don't want to give them that out of it's just matches because we knocked WWE for the same thing. They never did horsewomen versus horsewomen because, they let these things slip through their fingers. And AEW is too young of a company to let one of their founders go back to WWE. And then there's that. Like, if it is creative control kind of thing, why the fuck are you going back to WWE?
That's the point I'm making. The case of, because that creative control aspect probably is one of the factors that maybe caused maybe a few fractures between Cody and Tony Khan. It's clearly not the be-all end-all. Money is the big thing. And that's where WWE has the advantage over AEW because they just have way more money available that they're willing to spend on it. But
so here's what I've said to people, and I think that this is something that a lot of people, especially nowadays, overlook because they think they're better than it. Don't downplay the idea of headlining WrestleMania. And no, I don't think he's going to headline this year. Don't downplay the idea of even competing for the WWE Championship for
Right.
WrestleMania.
A lot of
Like,
people forget that a lot of people, most you would probably say, go into the pro wrestling business because they want to be WWE champion at WrestleMania. And they might be,
Right.
a lot of people are like, oh, I didn't fucking care if I ever went to WWE. And it's like, yeah, if they give you a contract, you'd sign it fucking immediately. And there are some people that are like, no, I'm much more onto the New Japan stuff. I like, that's where my career is. And I want to stick there and whatever. And, power to those people. But like 8 out of 10 people would be like, I'll drop what I'm doing in a heartbeat if WWE signed me. Even if I end up being, Eggman and I'm only in NXT, I'm going to sign with WWE because it's WWE. And that could be a factor. I don't think that's going to be one of the main things. I do think that the money is a big thing. And the money thing too. Here's another thing. It was only 3 years. And Cody, the guy that started it all, is gone. That doesn't look good for Jericho.
No, well,
they rolled over
that's
Jericho's deal.
so that's another big thing to talk about as well. Jericho is now tied to the company for the next 2 years because they rolled over his contracts. Every single and actually this hasn't been fully verified, so I can't say with absolute certainty.
Not Omega.
But there is a perspective that at least some of the people that were originally signed to AEW had rollover deals or rollover options where they could sign for an additional year or 2 years. The Bucks apparently have taken that option. Jericho has taken that option. If Cody had that option, then that makes it even more interesting because Tony is then
choosing not to.
Yeah, chosen not to take that option, or he would take up the option, but Cody says that, that doesn't work for me because that's on the same money that I was on. I need more money.
Mm-hmm.
And so that makes it, again, a bit more about the money side of things. I think that we should also probably bring up from that perspective as well with the 3 years with Cody, even though we've all spoken about how Cody put over so many good talent and he had great matches, great feuds as well. And so I don't want to take anything away from his time at AEW, but there is enough information out there from multiple sources about how there are people within the AEW roster that aren't exactly upset to see the back of Cody and Brandy. Obviously, I know there's a lot of conjecture about that, and so we don't know what's real, what's true, what's real, what's been overblown.
Weren't a lot of those specifically aimed at Brandy?
So yeah, Brandy was the main part of that, but obviously there were a lot of women online, Nyla Rose, Red Velvet,
Aubrey. I know Aubrey.
Aubrey had jumped to her defense online, but then again, some women didn't.
But
so, I mean,
it's who you talk to. It's who you talk to,
right?
And like realistically, that's life, right?
Right. Yeah, you're always going to have your friends and your not enemies, but like the people that weren't as close to you and stuff. So I'd be shocked if it wasn't the case that some people were like, I couldn't give a shit about Brandy leaving, and some people like, oh my god, one of my best friends is leaving. I fucking hate this. Like, yeah.
And we talk about Brandy as well because like she's leaving on part of this, and obviously that means that she's had her contract terminated because I assume that her deal wasn't up at the same time as Cody's was. So it means that she's just decided to leave the company alongside it, which was obviously fair enough. But it's Brandy did do a lot, both on the wrestling side, obviously. As polarizing character she was, a lot of her segments did draw ratings, so can't take that away from her as well. But also she was pivotal in a lot of the deals that got set up with the American Hearts Association and stuff along those lines.
Culture City.
Yeah, Culture City. The heels thing as well. So she did live up to the name of a chief brand officer. She did actually do a lot to help the brand early on. It's just a case that they don't need... Well, as I said, they don't need it, but I'm sure they could find someone else to fulfill that role as well. And as far as we've heard of speculation as well out there, obviously when we start moving on to the WWE side of things, there is reports out there that Brandy would not be signed with WWE as Cody would potentially be.
Right.
But that she wants to continue wrestling and she's continuing to train at the Nightmare Factory, which another thing we have to talk about really.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that. Nightmare Factory. What the fuck's going on there, right?
So that ties in both like the QT Marshall types and the people that are like, Nick Camarado and Lee Marshall and Lee Marshall
Lee Marshall.
Lee Marshall, wow. Lee Moriarty. And it also is
Johnson.
Lee Moriarty's fine.
Isn't he a part of the Nightmares?
No, Lee Johnson.
No, he's a well-trained wrestler.
Moriarty. I thought he was actually a part of it as well.
Nah.
No. But Dustin Rhodes, and because that's like, how weird is it if Dustin is just there and Cody and Brandy are elsewhere? Like,
yeah, he's fully said that he's not leaving. He likes it in AEW, so
strange, right? Like,
it is strange, especially because apparently Cody wants to still wants to run the Nightmare Factory despite leaving AEW. I think that it's a situation that could be worked. Not worked as in like a work wrestling thing, but it's
worked
a situation
out.
that could worked out, because like, even though Cody would still run the Nightmare Factory, it's still QT and a lot of other people that are doing more of the day-to-day actual training side of things. And it could just be a situation where, okay, Cody owns this wrestling school, and it's kind of like this weird amalgamation of like WWE and AEW people, and like some of the talent will end up being signed by WWE, some of the talent will end up being signed by AEW. It's not like everyone that works in Nightmare Factory does go on to be an AEW or work on Dark or anything like that. Some of them will be picked up by WWE nowadays anyway. So,
what's the one that Breeze owns? It's Breeze and somebody.
Fatbacks. It's Breeze and
Spears. Yeah, so it's like, for a little while there, you got one guy that's in WWE, one guy that's in AEW, and Tyler Black, the whole Black school. Seth Rollins has that. Black and Brave.
Black and Brave. But then I think they were just promoting so much for AEW. Brandy just did an interview promoting the American Heart Association. Cody just did the AEW podcast talking about the community outreach. Yes, there is the idea that, sure, he gave his Twitter to community outreach. Now he took it back, and they have their own thing. And my thought process on this is diminishing by the day. But I'm still not out of the woods of the thought process that, like, maybe they're just legitimately parting ways, but he just ends up back there anyway.
It could just be negotiating. Yeah.
I think, well, I would say that if you're negotiating, you don't issue those press releases that they issued.
But
that is the mark of, okay, we're at the end of the road here.
That's a stalemate type thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that's not saying that he couldn't in several months or a couple of years' time go back to AEW when the dust has settled type thing. But that is, for me, is the cut-off point of the point. Because at the end of the day, they don't have to put out those press releases. They don't have to say those things that they've said. If they're still negotiating, they're still negotiating. But if Tony Khan's putting out that thing and Cody's putting it out and Brandy's putting it out, that means it's done. That means there's no negotiation anymore. Or at least for the foreseeable future, there's no negotiation. Because who does that?
Right.
Who puts out a press release saying, okay, we've decided to part ways, and then says, okay, now we'll start talking about it again, and then maybe, he'll be back in the month or so. It's just like, you don't do that. It just makes you look stupid.
But they're all fucking hardcore marks. You don't think that they're just like, can we do a Brett 96 here? Like, hypothetically.
If this is Brett 96, Brett never did sign, never left the company.
But they did offer him. They did offer him, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, they spoke about it. I'm not saying that Brett wasn't offered something by WCW at that point in time and decided to re-sign WWE. It's a completely different thing with the guys actually released. And it's not like WWE at that point in time did say that we've come to terms of releasing Bret Hart, and then Bret Hart came back. They were negotiating. That's what you do. You keep it stum. If you're still negotiating, then that's whatever. If they were still negotiating, we wouldn't know that Cody's left, because they would be keeping silent about it until the point where they had to just say, yep, we couldn't reach an agreement, Cody's going.
It'd be what it was a couple weeks ago when it was like, it seems like Cody might be working on a deal that's not really, like that kind of thing.
Yeah. And it's not a fucking work as well. For anyone who is listening to this that does think that it's work, because if this is a work, they're working the entire AEW roster. And we know from the past that if you start working your roster, then your company is fucking doomed.
Because then you can't trust anybody anymore. And it's like, hey, motherfuckers, we're not the fans. Let us in on it. It
killed WCW. It, for the most part, killed TNA to
killed
the point that
TNA.
they couldn't actually die. We know that promotion can't actually die, but that's like
never die.
That would not only blow back really badly on Cody and Brandy, but also really badly on Tony Khan.
Yeah,
because it would be like, oh, Cody motherfucker, he's into this whole kind of thing, and he's just doing all this stuff just to boost himself. And then it would be like, oh, Tony Khan's going to play those games too. He's no better than Vince McMahon, like that kind of thing. Like that's not a good look for anybody.
It doesn't benefit anybody. What's the upside to Cody re-signing after working that they'd left as well? What's the storyline purpose of that? It's just like, again, it's just there to piss people off, and it's just, so we kind of got to the point. Well, talk a little bit about Cody's other relationships with TNT. Go Big Show and
Rhodes to the Top and Go Big Show.
That matters at all, except for like Rhodes to the Top could always go on another network, but I think him being on Go Big Show, it helps AEW, right? But John Cena's on Wipeout. It's not like that means he can't be on Raw.
No.
I think not knowing anything about these shows or the metrics, because not only am I not getting those kind of numbers, but I don't fucking care as well, because I don't like these shows. I think that there's a good chance that both get canceled. And I think that
hell, Go Big Show won't.
If they do keep Go Big Show, you just replace him.
He's a judge, yeah.
They've
already replaced one judge from there, so yeah.
America's Got Talent had like the part of the main thing for that was it's Simon Cowell and it's what's her fucking name? Paul Abdul. Couldn't think of her fucking name.
And it's American Idol, pal. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'm mixing them up. America's Got Talent, same kind of thing though. America's Got Talent had, specific judges that were a part of like, let's make this part of the show. And, the X Factor and like all these types of, The Voice, every one of these shows, they eventually replace people. So it's like, I don't think losing Cody Rhodes on Go Big Show matters at all.
Can you imagine like Cody, they get Cody off and replace with Chris Jericho?
It could happen.
It would work.
It could very easily happen. Jericho's done some, 2 shows before like that, I think. I know he's done at least one, but he's done like the BattleBots thing, and then he's done something else, and then, Jericho is very easily somebody that they could put into that spot. Or just any fucking other person. I mean, they could just have like, hey, now it's Adele is on it, or whatever the fuck. I don't know why I went with Adele, but like they could just throw anybody on there. Any A to F list celebrity. Kathy Griffin's on there now, and there you go. Watch the show, because the show is basically just, this person juggles, but they're on fire at the same time. Oh man, that's fucking crazy. Rhodes to the Top, it's another fucking reality show. The reality shows come and go like nothing.
For a guy that covers a lot of pop culture, you're very jaded towards some of these things.
Pop culture blows.
Yeah.
My wife's following all this Kanye West going crazy shit the other day. He's tweeting out that he's at the Super Bowl and he's wearing this mask, and he's like, oh, I wish I would have had more holes in this mask. And it's like, you're a fucking lunatic. You're all crazy. Why does anybody care about the Kardashians? Why does anybody care about some of these shows? I watched like 5 shows. I'm like, yeah, Pam and Tommy's been fucking great. Like, that show's been fun. But yeah, Rhodes to the Top, it's not a priority. They probably just get canceled. It seems like they're doing a Darby Allin show. So there you go. There's your replacement.
Darby Allin, welcome to Jackass.
New Intercontinental Champion.
Yeah.
I haven't heard a peep about AEW heels. So either that continues or that's dead. But if it's dead, who fucking cares? It wasn't the biggest deal in the world, Well,
to be fair, it's not for us.
No, but it's like,
so we don't know if it was a big deal for other people.
I've not heard a single person, male or female, mention it other than me.
Let me tell you something. I know someone who's absolutely distraught that they might have to actually keep up with WWE to continue watching Cody. Because they want all of their favorites in the one place, and they love the Rhodes to the Top thing, and they're just a Cody stan. There are people out there who are like that. I think a lot of people are downplaying Cody, and Cody's huge for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. That now moves on to the big question, which is the WWE thing. So now we've kind of established all the things that were kind of surrounding his departure from AEW and how fucking crazy it is and all that stuff.
Right.
Now we move on to the next crazy part, which is the WWE move.
Which we assume, of course, would go to WWE. He could do some kind of like, I'm going to fight for NWA in the meantime or do anything like that. But ultimately,
no chance.
He's probably going to go to just a WWE.
So this is massive, not just because it's Cody, but the ramifications extending further. But the fact that it is Cody is a massive deal because Cody is a former EVP. He's one of the founders of the company, and he's the first major name to leave AEW, and the first possible defection from AEW to WWE after an absolute cavalcade of defections from WWE to AEW. And this is the first time they can do the opposite. And so they have to absolutely fucking nail it. Because this sets the precedent for WWE going forward. If they really want to get their hands on Jade Cargill and MJF and some of the other names we've had, and Wardlow and some of the other names we've seen batted around that they're interested in going forward, they have to treat Cody like the main event star that he is.
Mm-hmm.
That means a massive 7-figure salary. That means a main event push. That means WWE Championship.
Yes.
That means beat Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. I'm not saying necessarily. I'm not saying necessarily.
Yeah,
he has to do that, but he has to be at that level. He has to be considered that level star.
Right. He has to be the guy that can hold the WWE title. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say this: they definitely wouldn't do this unless they are unless Vince McMahon has literally gone insane. There's literally like just going absolutely crazy. If they put him in the fucking Stardust get up,
or God,
they put him in fucking polka dots or anything along those lines, then they're basically telling the rest of the AEW roster that might have been considering WWE, hey, we've got tons of money and we're going to treat you like absolute shit because you worked for our competition first.
It's going to be Dance Monkey.
Yeah, exactly.
Hold on. To be clear, he's got to do at some point something with the Stardust paint, even if it's debuting.
I think that the best thing for that is you put him in a feud eventually with Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins comes out in the Stardust getup.
Love it. All right. Absolutely love it.
And we'll get to the people that I think he could work with. And Rollins is like number 2 on my list. But I think that the polka dots, he would absolutely play into that. I think that they know what they have here. Yeah. I think that they do. And specifically, he's got to go to Raw. Raw needs somebody so bad.
Yeah.
Raw needs somebody real bad, and then Cody is perfect for that show.
So, for anyone that thinks that WWE is still looking at this guy, or hopefully, again, I can't get into the mind of a crazy billionaire, but this is a case like if they're looking at this guy and thinking that this is the same Intercontinental Champion, United States Championship level guy that they released, or that Astra has released, however many years ago at this point, 7 years ago maybe, or something along those lines, that's then if they did have that mindset, they're fucking crazier and stupider than you could ever give them credit for. This guy has proven that he's a main eventer. This is Drew McIntyre approach, but in even
this
further
is
level
way
than Drew
bigger
McIntyre.
than Drew. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But they made Drew a main eventer, and Drew is at a lower level than Cody was built us up. So if they don't treat Cody like not even just a main eventer, but like one of your like primary stars of your company for at least for the next few years, then I don't know what they're thinking. Like, this guy is a bona fide star.
So,
and he's 36 years old. He's younger than most of your stars.
Right. Here's something that I think is
this. Hold on, one more thing, because Cody's in a better position than McIntyre from a WWE perspective. Because Stardust happened, right? But like so did legit rivalries with DX.
Right.
And guys that nobody in today's roster will ever have the privilege of facing.
So here's something that's funny to think about with WWE. Do you guys think that if they're able to get him, which you got to assume they're going to try real hard to get him, and that he's probably like, hey, can I come back? There's so many ways that they can look at this before we even getting into feuds and how to book them and whatever. they could look at this as, fuck yeah, we got one of their main people, and, you know, we stuck it to the AEW crowd, and haha, we fucking won something. Or they could look at this as the meme that I saw going around about the Simpsons of this. So you came crawling back type of thing. There could be this kind of precedent where they could be like, you see, everybody comes back to the WWE because everybody comes back to the big thing. No matter how much you fucking want to do outside of the company, we know you're going to come crawling back because fucking Macho Man came back. Fucking Hogan came back. Fucking whatever. Like, but, well, I mean, Macho Man, like, ended up working some sort of deals with, like, the 2K sponsorship thing. Like, Ultimate Warrior. Oh, you know, you're never going to come back to that. You fucking came back. Like, it could be the whole, like, you all come back or you wish you could have. And they could be real dicks about it, and it's not going to help anybody. It's just going to be an ego kind of deal. So I'm hoping that's not the case. But they could also look at it as the, you know, how do we prove to the AEW people like Jade Cargill, like you mentioned, how do we prove to them that we are not going to be that petty? And how do we give him the championship? And we do this and we do that because maybe Cody can be that guy that can bring them over. But again, if we butter him up enough, he could be the guy that says to an MJF, hey, remember how I told you that going to AEW would be a good thing? Well, I think now the time for you to go to WWE is the thing. Like, they could butter up Cody enough to have him be one of their Trojan horses, essentially, of like, you know how AEW works. You can kind of tell us how they do some of those things behind the scenes. Maybe it's illegal, maybe it's not. Maybe you just tell us, but we don't really have the conversation. Maybe you can still be in contact with some of these people and just, man, I'm telling you, you'd get, hey, Brian Cage, you get that push if you were in WWE. Like, that could be a big thing as well. Mm. There's so much to this that's like, that we are never going to know.
But I think we're all, like, in saying this, we're not talking about Cody is first and foremost a WWE guy. It's not like you're putting AEW on a pedestal. It's Cody Rhodes. He was on your TV at the age of 22. He grew up on your TV. It's, if they don't do this right, they're doing a disservice to themselves at this point.
And what's the point? So with the whole just Cody joining and being to start, I think the most fascinating thing about it is the situations that you described, Tony. It's a case of, yeah, they could either go the petty route or they could go the convince AEW. I know, and we all sitting here know what the smarter route is, but the fascinating thing is I have no idea which route they're going to take, because they have a track record of being these petty assholes that would that fucking ruined Goldberg when they brought him into the company, and fucking all these other people, all these other ex-WCW stars, they made absolute jokes and losers when they came back to the company or came into the company for the first time. It's just, they can't help themselves. Vince can't help himself sometimes. And it's whether he can get past his ego, get past his whole grandstanding. I know that the reports going around that WWE people internally have been already like celebrating this release and all this thing, and people knew about the press releases coming in WWE before even some people in AEW knew they were coming. It's like, so you know that that's kind of, at least he's at least in negotiation, or he's at least talking to people there. But think about what is he going to want out of this deal after the experience that he's had in AEW? Like, a top 10 earner in the company, I think is pretty much a minimum.
I would hope so, you know, because he is still Cody Rhodes. He shouldn't underplay himself.
Yeah, exactly. He shouldn't be wanting any less money than he was wanting in AEW. In fact, he probably should be wanting more. What element of like actual working time is he going to want? Does he want to be a part-timer? Does he want to be able to be a bit more flexible with his time and stuff along those lines?
He's got a kid now, so that's got to be an argument of just being like, look, I'm not going to work your fucking house shows and work every, 4 or 5 days a week. I want to work like a Randy Orton or something. Yeah.
How much input does he want in his character? Because I think that going in, I think he should want to be, obviously no one has creative control in WWE beyond Vince, but he want to be someone like a Brock or a Roman who basically gets a pitch and can say, I'm not fucking doing that. and just like, okay, we'll think of something else then for you, that type of thing, rather than be a guy who's told what to do. Because again, you can never question someone's motivations, or maybe it is all just about money for him. So if so, then so be it. But I can't imagine that if he's had some grander say in what his character's direction is in AEW, even if he wasn't the booker, he's had more input into the direction what his character goes, that he's going to want to give that up by going to WWE.
So and yeah, he's not going to get creative control for sure, because there's no way that they're going to let him do that. They don't let anybody do that. But if they give him at least a little bit of leeway, just enough where he could be like, look, I need a promise that you're not going to throw me in the fucking Stardust gimmick again.
Yeah. Well, things like, is he going to want to work with Paul Heyman?
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously not from maybe an on-screen standpoint, but from a backstage standpoint, because Brock works with Heyman, Roman works with Heyman, Heyman's been involved in a lot of other guys behind the scenes as well and helping them out. So is he going to want to have him as some sort of like creative consultant for him? Things along those lines. I think the contract that Cody gets, obviously we'll never know the full details of it unless they're leaked out to people. But that's going to say a lot about where they view him, how valuable they consider this acquisition from AEW, because realistically they should view this as a massive fucking deal for all the reasons we've spoken about like, this is your first guy, that's the first major guy that's leaped over from one side to the other in at least from a WWE perspective, from the positive direction. So you've got to make a big deal out of this guy, otherwise who else is going to want to make that jump?
And I would make the argument for WWE, if I'm them, I'll take a little bit of a loss. Because this is going to look bigger in the long run. Like if he says, I want $1 million a year, and they're like, oh man, you're trying to get away from these $1 million contracts. And it's like, fucking Jinder Mahal makes $1 million a year. I think you can make Cody at that level, because it's going to seem like such a big deal for the momentum shift. Like AEW fans are going to be pissed about it in some ways, but some of them are going to be like, you know what? I guess WWE does win in the long run. Let me go back. People are fucking fickle,
If they do it right, like that's the thing. If they manage to have Cody Rhodes go on this awesome run that's actually compelling TV, people will absolutely start watching again. This is such a pivotal moment for them. And if it just turns out to be, because I've seen this one a million times, Cody and Brandy against Miz and Maurice, come on.
Yeah. See, I don't want that to happen. I don't want, I mean, I'm cool with the idea of maybe they find some kind of role for Brandy in some fashion, but Brandy's never really been a great wrestler. And I mean, look, the chief brand officer thing, how many things do you really need to do with some of those things? How many things do we not know that she did that's behind the scenes that was like a massive deal that she did? It's completely, we'd have no idea what the fuck's going on with that. But like, they're not going to put Brandi Rhodes in Stephanie's position, obviously. And I highly doubt that she's going to become some kind of major influence in WWE, but maybe they have her as a manager like Maurice. And they just like, hey, you want to come in every once in a while? We'll do something with you here and there. I don't think that they're going to sign her to any kind of deal. I think this is pretty much just Cody. And maybe she doesn't want to necessarily sign something like that either. Maybe she wants to focus a little bit more on her kid. Or maybe she likes the idea about doing like indie kind of wrestling just to do something a little different. We don't know what they necessarily want. It is kind of strange that Cody and Brandy both leave at the same time. And it's like, they didn't necessarily need to, No. Like Dustin didn't leave at the same time, and Brandy could have theoretically stayed around and still been chief brand officer.
Right.
I think it's slightly different when it's like the married couple kind of.
Yeah, it's different, But
I think with Dustin is his own guy. Like,
yeah.
They've worked in different promotions before, so I don't think that's ever gonna.
And this could be like, and I don't want to say IOU, but like a reciprocal thing from when Cody ended his contract early because, or actually, I might have this backwards. Brandy might have done this before where Cody got released and Brandy was just like, okay, I'm going home too. Just cut my contract short because I'm not going to be without him.
It could be that kind of thing. And maybe that even could be part of the deal. It could be those things where it's like Cody's like, hey, for me to stick in AEW, Brandy needs to stick around too, and she needs to make X amount of money and whatever. And then Tony Khan could have been like, look, it's not worth it for the both of you to be at this level and to get a raise and to do all this. And even a WWE could be like, nah, man, like we're only interested in you. Or they could come to WWE and be like, I need a spot for Brandy. And then, I mean, God, no, I want so many fucking podcasts and stuff of these things. I want to know what's going on behind the scenes of these. Cause like in a couple weeks, we might have some huge news that changes our perception about everything. Cause we could get it. I mean, theoretically speaking, if they're looking for ways to sell WrestleMania tickets, if they sign Cody Rhodes and they just push him into a program, that's another big boost. It's not going to be the thing that makes, 400,000 people.
It's got to be the right program.
Yeah. Yes. And it can't just be Cody Rhodes just as going to face Humberto Carrillo for the sake of it. Like there are some people that they can work with that I think it's going to be enough of a draw that could get people's attention. Seth Rollins, of course, is one of them that was mentioned. I love that idea of him coming out as the Stardust thing. I think that's fantastic.
Stardust. Yeah, that's tremendous. Good on you, Callum.
I heard it from someone else, so I'm not going to take the credit for it.
Yeah.
I think maybe Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre makes sense.
Absolutely.
Think about it. They were a former tag team. They, of course, are two big names. Drew McIntyre's got fuck all that he's doing right now. I don't think anybody, even a fan like me of Baron Corbin, I'm not going to be like, no, the Baron Corbin match is what's, no, that's you go with the Cody Rhodes match. But you got Cody against an AJ Styles. You got Cody against
AJ Styles, Cody against Brawler, like somebody that they can easily go, you're elite, brother, too sweet. They have to have it in the story. So if you're going to give him a non-title match, it has to be an AJ where he can say, oh, I didn't join your company and you ended up here anyway. Same thing with Brawler. Like you have to be able to play on it. And I think those two can. I think Rollins would do a great job because he's a guy who's been, let's stand up for WWE, and he does the pedigree, unlike Cody on AEW TV. And you can go there. And I've already mentioned ad nauseum about Brandy because that's another great way to go.
Yeah, the Brandy match, of course, can happen down the line. Oh, man.
I mean, you guys are missing the obvious match.
I mean, we're not going to talk about Reggie that much.
Well, I'll say there, but no. Again, this is all very dependent on
if he's healthy
and healthiness.
Yeah,
but it's Cody and Triple H.
Well, that's why I didn't bring it up because I don't know.
Yeah,
Triple H status, but absolutely, it's Cody and Triple H.
Because it's the fucking destroying the throne with a sledgehammer in AEW. It's the fucking golden shovel. It's clear there's animosity between these two that stems back beyond. And obviously, I think that I think it's professional animosity. I think they both have mutual respect for each other, but there's clearly issues within the company towards Cody's departure as well. And so he played up that point. It's not like he's ever brought up he's ever done the strut in AEW or anything like that, or like Vince's strut or anything like along those lines. So it's clearly all his shots were targeted at Triple H. So that's the one to go with. And that also makes it more interesting with like how is Cody going to be presented, because you would have thought initially doing all that stuff that was very anti-Triple H would be viewed as a negative of him coming in. But now, considering the Triple H's status of the company, he might be fucking taking over NXT for all we know. Let's see what happens there.
That could be part of the whole thing too. Is it could just be like, I mean, if they were to do this kind of feud, it could be like, my dad was Mr. NXT. Everybody always talks about Dusty's kids, and then you fucking ran it into the ground. And where is it now? That doesn't exist anymore. That kind of thing. Oh man. And does he come in as a heel?
They would never do this, but if that was your plan to have Cody show up on NXT and be like, I'm taking over, they could headline Stand and Deliver Cody and Hunter. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that would be a tremendous match. Anyway, you look at it, as long as Hunter's healthy. But that would be a hell of a main event for Stand and Deliver, too.
But, like, does he come in as a heel? Does he come in as a babyface? Because he could come in as, boo, you're the AEW guy, you left us, and that's not going to go over all that well at all.
I generally think it'll be a case of, boo, you were in AEW, we liked AEW, why did you leave and come to this shithole?
It could be that.
Probably that's what my general reaction will be.
It could be WWE being so headstrong about, like, no, people will embrace him coming back because that's whatever. They could, like, look, think of it this way. They could have the philosophy of fans are going to boo him because he went to the company. Fans are going to cheer him because he came back. Fans are going to embrace him as a babyface if we want him to be a babyface. Fans are going to boo him if we want him to be a heel. They could do the whole, like, let's just see what happens. There's so many different avenues.
He's going to be the same thing that he was in AEW. He's going to be the most polarizing character on WWE's television as opposed to AEW's one. He was AEW's John Cena. And he's going to come into WWE as WWE's new John Cena.
And then they'll do the same exact thing that they've done a million times. Oh, as long as they're making a reaction, it's all that matters. Whether you boo me or you cheer me. I fucking hate that line so goddamn much.
Yeah. But the difference is with Cody is that Cody doesn't need to necessarily just fit into one slot or the other. He could be fighting babyface. He could be fighting heels just for the sake of just wanting to fight people or just wanting to get to results that he needs to. John Cena was always, I'm never going to turn heel. And Cody at this point, if he's just going into WWE, I'm sure he'll still do charity work and things along those lines, but maybe he'll be less unreceptive to the idea of turning heel now that he's not like, he won't be like the pivotal part of that entire community outreach stuff.
Has Cody, he said in the past that, like, he considers himself a failure, right? Like, he has said that in interviews that, like, his dream was world title, WrestleMania, and that didn't happen for him, so maybe it just never would. There's like so many different stories you could tell here about, like, yeah, maybe he just is a guy who grew up in that era where there wasn't a lot of competition and he just wanted to headline Mania, and he could go on this crusade of, like, I need this. I don't care if it's Lashley, Rollins, Theory, you know, like, I need help. Putting him with Theory even puts him in front of McMahon. And I kind of want to see that. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, we have to also say it's like that the first promo he cuts on WWE TV, if, and again, we're all saying speculation, it's if he signs, there's still no confirmation.
Right.
But that first promo he would cut is must-see television.
Yeah.
Immediately. Because he could say anything. He could literally just be talking about his returns to WWE and how excited he is to be back. If I were them, I'd mention AEW by name.
Have to.
You have to, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, they don't have to because they don't have to do anything because they made $1 billion last year and they can do whatever the fuck they want, seemingly. But
it would seem weird if they didn't at least have him slyly say something like, I left and I went elsewhere, but I came back to the real big leagues or something. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
All he has to do is walk into a ring on Raw and say, I'm ready to be an elite superstar. Drop the mic. And, like, that is an article that needs to be written post haste if he just says those words. I'm ready to be an elite superstar. Drop mic.
So, yeah, it'll be... yeah, again, it's all very crazy that all this stuff is happening. Like, it's... I don't. Again, we don't know what's going to happen because that's what the world of wrestling is and how crazy it can always be. But this must be. It'll be one of the stories of the year. Whatever happens from this point onwards, I'd say it has. It almost certainly has to be WWE because at the end of the day, where else can he really go? You know, obviously, there's again the talks about the Ring of Honor and NWA and stuff like that. But that's like, I think that's stretching. Like a really big stretch to even suggest those type of things. And so WWE is the destination if he wants to stay in wrestling. That's the other big point because he's always done the teasers about retiring and stuff like that and going into either politics or movies or anything along those lines. And so
WWE is the launching pad for all those things.
Yeah, they make movies. But
you can't say it like that. You got to say we make movies, pal.
Yeah, but I think that WWE will be the destination. I think if they've got any sense, it has to be prior to WrestleMania. They have to have something lined up for him. And yeah, I think that it's going to be interesting, if nothing else. If it's going to liven up the world of WWE. Even if the rest of the creative is going wrong, people are going to be fascinated about what's going on with Cody. Why is he here? What are they doing? Until the point they fuck it up. Yeah, until the point they fuck it up.
That is a proven strategy, because Roman Reigns, when he first turned, it was like, yeah, the rest of it's kind of shit, but I gotta see what else they're gonna do with Roman next. Like, all they need is that one angle, and I can't stress this enough. He should go to Raw. I think it would be a mistake for him to go anywhere else. But like, it's exciting. At the very least, this week was an exciting week to do what we do.
And we haven't even gotten to the pay-per-view tomorrow. There could be whole fucking crazy shit. It's rumors that they have like some big twists involved. Like, shit, for all we know, Cody Rhodes fucking pops up. Like, yeah, they get like, who could be taken out of like the chamber match? Like
Riddle.
Right, yeah, like Riddle could be taken out of the chamber match. Cody Rhodes can win the fucking WWE title in less than 24 hours.
And that's
what's Cody Runnels doing in the Jeddah zone?
And that's the idea of, when Raw went off the air, it looks like the Brock Lesnar show, and then Cody Rhodes is the WWE champion within, the 6 days. And that's the kind of thing that I think you need to do. That's why I have not been shy about saying, look, if you got Cody, hotshot him to that WWE title picture at WrestleMania. I don't care what you have to step on. You've proven that your plans don't mean anything. Like,
I would love to see Cody Rhodes walk out with the WWE Championship, not only because that means that we're not getting the title versus title thing, and that's not just wasting it, but man, that would be interesting as shit.
You never know.
It wouldn't make me think that everything is great. It wouldn't make me not still write up articles about how I don't give a shit about Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair, for instance, or something. WWE is not like, they can't treat everybody like they're a dog that you dangle some fucking toy in front of and you throw it, and then it's like, okay, well, they don't pay any attention to the fact that we just, replaced their food dish or something. But it's
at least the kind of thing that goes, good.
Right.
You got it.
And good things are good.
Yeah, let's see where we go from here, because you got it.
I'll never look a gift horse in the mouth.
Because that would be amazing. Like, just to say Cody just doesn't go to Saudi Arabia. It's weird to think about, how do you not debut Cody in the States? But if you debut Cody in the States with the belt, even cooler.
And that's a hook to get you people watching Monday Night Raw, as if it ends up being like, you see what happened at Saudi Arabia? Well, we're going to hear from the first time from new WWE champion Cody Rhodes. You plaster that on WWE.com. Hopefully you spell it correctly. And then you... I don't know why I'm taking shots at those people, but it's true.
It's the kind of thing that you always hear about the Monday Night War, right? Like, oh my God, and then Hulk showed up, and then Diesel's here, and it's like, you have that. You have this opportunity.
Cody comes out and goes, hey, yo. You know who I am?
I could absolutely see him saying, you know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here.
That'd be fucking great if we did. And you know what? It's like, it's February. By the end of this year, who knows what different routes the WWE Championship took, what this massive thing is that Tony Khan's talking about, who else gets signed, where Cody goes. We'd be in for a weird year.
Yeah,
Austin could be back. Yeah, it's like, man.
Just from the other, just the whole AEW WWE perspective, there's a lot of AEW contracts apparently coming up in May.
Yep.
And so, see who else is following Cody over into the other side, and who WWE releases to end up in AEW by the end of the year as well. So it's like there's going to be so much to talk about.
2 months from now, we're going to have gone past WrestleMania, the post-WrestleMania releases. We'll know a better idea about who gets released from that. We'll know the massive thing. We'll know where Cody is probably. Man, this next mailbag is going to be probably crazy. But another thing that's happening on the website right now, this is the last thing for me to just mention, is we are starting the Smark Madness tournament. And we are currently in the qualifying round. What you're going to do here is you're going to vote on the ones that you want to actually enter the tournament, because we're going to set the bracket So everything from Micro League Wrestling 1987 that was released to Amiga and Commodore 64, all the way through to the most recent WWE game outside of 2K22, because it hasn't really been out there for people to play and everything, of WWE Undefeated from the mobile game in 2021. All of those are options to pick. You can go from, hey, you know, I'm a real big fan of Battlegrounds, or, you know, no, there hasn't been anything good since the WrestleMania arcade game, or maybe you really are into that era where it was like GameCube stuff, like Day of Reckoning. I don't even know some of these games.
I was gonna say, I love the way that you're talking, like you have no clue what's going on.
WWE SmackDown Shut Your Mouth, WWE Crush Hour. What? Superstar Slingshot? I don't know.
Never played Crush Hour?
Not at all.
You never... So it's...
I didn't play Axe Hour or Smash Hour either.
You ever played Twisted Metal?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that, but with wrestlers.
Do they have like themed cars?
Yeah.
Is it like Undertaker's got like a hearse?
A bike.
Yeah.
A bike.
Well, yeah.
Oh, fuck that game. Fuck that. Don't vote for that.
It was the biker era, so he was away from the casket.
Fucking garbage. Don't vote for that one.
You're such a mature man, don't you?
For certain things. But yeah, you got the option to vote for those, and it's actually going to be a 2-week qualifying round because it is to vote for 32. So I figure that's quite a bit. Plus, I want to make sure that we're at a time frame where we have our finals leads into WrestleMania. And I wanted to make sure that this was up here for Elimination Chamber. So you'll see that on the sidebar once I update that, because it just got posted while we were doing this podcast. But the options are there to vote, so vote on that. And that's another thing to keep tracking on smarkoutmoment.com, as well as, of course, all the different other kinds of things we do. The weekly articles, like Callum with his power rankings. And we've got the triple threat every week. We've got the Battle of the Brands. Of course, we got TV coverage. And tomorrow we're going to have the Elimination Chamber. So check out smarkoutmoment.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at smarkoutmoment. Don't typically do the news related things. We usually do that on the hot tags. That's why we're doing this. But if there are some breaking news, sometimes those things do get posted there separately outside of that. So subscribe to the RSS feed, because you never know what you're going to get. And of course, we've got plenty of other podcasts coming your way outside of just the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view point coming up tomorrow night, because we'll get into some more fun stuff over the coming weeks. Game plan for the week after this is kind of up in the air a little bit, but maybe we'll do something kind of on the AEW side just for something a little bit different. Or maybe we'll do another watch along or something. I don't know. Revolution's coming up. We got WrestleMania stuff. Lots, of course, happening. And if you want to follow what's going on outside of that with Fanboys Anonymous, go to fanboysanonymous.com. Follow the extra stuff that I've got elsewhere. Just follow me on Facebook and Twitter at Tony Mango. And follow what these guys have going on as well. Rob?
Yeah, you want to follow Fightful and Fightful Select, because if anything's going on, Sean Ross Sapp has got it. And he's working overtime to get all these things fact-checked, and everything that goes up is really airtight vetted. So Fightful Select and Fightful.com. You can also check me out everywhere at Dude Felice, and hopefully I'll have more projects and links for you in the future. Alan?
Yep, you can check out, as Tony mentioned, the power rankings, as well as all the other stuff on smarkoutmoment.com. Check out the Fantasy League as well, because Elimination Chamber is going to be a bit of a pivotal one, because if I win the predictions contest, then there's going to be some things going to shake up a little bit around here in terms of the teams and stuff. So keep an eye on that. Make sure to maybe clue people in once the Elimination Chamber show is over and we're on the post show. So stay tuned for that. Other than that, follow me on Twitter at WeekMost14.
Alrighty, everyone. Big addition of the hot tags in. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let us know. Drop a comment below, and we will see you next time. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.